Yo, what's going on? Welcome to Cleave to Antiquity. My name is Ben, and today I got a wild show for you today. We're going to be breaking down the Dyer and Hypocrite situation. That dude's supposed to call in, I guess, at like 5:30, so maybe in about 15 minutes. So I figured I'd go live just a little bit early just to break down the situation. We're going to have a chat about his most recent comments on this. We're also going to be breaking down the new info on the SIIIG situation. This is absolutely nuts. This is one of the craziest situations I've ever seen. I was about done with it yesterday. I actually had a phone call with the guy, and I was like, I'm going to stop talking about it. I'm just going to move on to some other subject. Then I get a file drop that was the most insane information I had ever seen in this entire whole situation. This is wild. So we're going to be diving into that and breaking that down. I'm also going to have the dudes from, or the two, I guess, rather the couple that made that video that was like, the husband wants to become Orthodox, but the wife doesn't. I reached out to them in the comments. I said, hey, if you want to talk about Orthodoxy, just pop on the show and we'll have a little chat. You know, we'll see what the resistance is or whatever. Allow them to kind of chat a little bit about it, and then we can, go from there. So they'll be swinging by in like, what, an hour and a half? So that'll be cool. But let's break down this situation real quick before this guy calls in, and we're going to have a chat about some of these comments here. So I share this here because this guy, Hypocrite, he shares a post. He says something along the lines of, why doesn't, who's more crazy or whatever? Is it Jay or is it Corey Mahler? If you don't remember, Corey Mahler's that Lutheran dude. He runs Stone Choir, the Wignat podcast. He did that debate on if the Holy Spirit could sanctify black people to the same degree as white people. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that he's debating on. But we look at this. So there's just like a comment that he made to me. Now, granted, Corey Mahler's had me blocked for probably the better part of a year. But I posted this on X. This was back in 2025. This was October 2025. I said, Lutheran Corey Mahler is openly calling for the killing of Orthodox Christians. Some apologists aren't just afraid of orthodoxy. They want you dead. So this is what Corey Mahler had posted. He said, the EO are open traitors. They exist to undermine any attempt to revive Christendom. They are a fifth column. He says, your name offers one solution to this guy, Damocles. I said, so your solution is to kill the Orthodox? Because I got what he was referring to there. He says, do you believe traitors deserve some other treatment? Bum, 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 bum. So basically what he's saying is, hey, we should, too many people are converting to this Orthodox thing. This is becoming a problem. So his solution here is, well, we can't win the debates, so we might as well just and unalive them. So this was the position that Corey Mahler took. So I share this. I say, all right, well, you know what? This is the dude that you're saying Jay's more crazy than this guy. This guy's nuts. So I guess the Hypocrite guy, this guy was like, I guess a big deal in like the 2016, 2017 meme war era. I was pretty active back then in some of the far right-wing circles. This guy would post a lot, would do the memes or whatever. He was like a meme page on several different social media platforms. I guess he runs a YouTube channel. To be completely honest, I haven't followed up with him too much since that time. But he made this comment here. So somebody said, hey, he was commenting on this guy's YouTube video. He says, hey, this guy just said, like, you should unalive the Orthodox. Is that not weird? Should we not mention that? He says, after the last 24 hours, I actually agree with Corey. So the guy went a little too far down the Stone Choir rabbit hole. Now he's saying we should unalive the Orthodox because they're converting too many Protestants. And that, for whatever reason, seems to be an issue to this guy. Now, granted, I don't know. Is he like, I'm going to talk to him in just a bit. Is he a non-denom? Is he a Lutheran? Is he a Lutheran just like Corey Mahler? What's the deal? So I'm going to have a chat with him and bring him on the show to see why the heck he thinks this is the case. So I gave an invite. I commented. I said, look, I tagged him. He said, why are you tagging me in this? I don't want to listen to you cry. I said, come up and defend your psychosis. I said, come chat. I don't care, dude. So he decided to come up. So we're going to have a chat about this in like 15 minutes. So he makes this video today where he's talking about this debate challenge. So how this all started, Jay asked the dude to debate. He wanted to hand off the debate to Corey Mahler. Jay said that guy's a psycho, which is true. He is a psycho. Then Hypocrite says, all right, the dude's like running because now Jay blocked me because I'm just like going back and forth trying to get him to debate Corey Mahler instead of me. So Jay posts this. He says, he's lying. I asked him to debate his Protestant position. He said, no, debate Mahler. He said he'd debate on whether Mahler's a psychopath, LOL. Note that Mahler calls for orthodox to be killed openly. So this was the, I guess, DM or something.
Disprove that. I'm calling you a coward because you're scared of Corey Mahler. How would debating me disprove that in any way? I thought you're supposed to be good at logic, dude. Listen, I will debate you if you want, but the topic that we're going to debate is whether or not Corey Mahler is a psychopath or you're just scared of him. I'm calling you a coward because you're...
Yeah, are you just scared of Corey Mahler? The guy doesn't strike me as an intellectual giant. But anyway, so this was one little DM here. So you're saying, yeah, this guy's lying because he said he challenged me to a debate and then blocked me when I accepted. Very feminine. So as you can hear here, it's not this dude accepting the debate. He's basically just saying like, hey, go debate Corey Mahler. Why are you running from Corey Mahler? So I don't know. The whole situation is nuts. He said he wanted to call in. I don't care. You can call in. We can chat. But yeah, I mean, I don't understand. Look, this was one of the comments on X he made. Jim Bob posted this, said, read this, dude. He said, your solution is to kill the Orthodox. He said, you believe traitors deserve some other treatment? He says, yeah, Corey's about that life, dude. That's why I love him, dude. He talks about wanting to kill the Orthodox, dude. That's so dope, dude. Don't get me wrong. He could be wrong about EO, but I don't know enough about it, and I can't evaluate that until someone debates him on it. Currently, his ideas are completely unchallenged. Would you care to? His ideas are completely unchallenged. Would you care to debate Corey Mahler? So anyway, he basically says, yep, like, oh, here you go. You got him in the back room. Let me go ahead and I'll add him up on the stage. Welcome to the show, dude.
Hey, hello. What's up?
Hey, how's it going, man? So wanted to swing up and talk about your recent tweets about orthodoxy, the Corey Mahler situation, and what's going on with Jay. So welcome up. First time talking to you. But we were just discussing this post. So this was one, I don't know if you know about any of the back and forths that we've had with Corey Mahler in the past. I'm assuming, are you just like catching up on his content this year, or what's your familiarity with him?
No, I've been working with Corey for a few years. I've done like 5 debates on my channel that I've hosted where he's debated other people. And I was trying to set up a debate between him and Jay Dyer. Like, you actually got that wrong. Jay Dyer did not come to me and ask me for a debate. And I said, no, you should debate Corey. And I made a 10-minute video explaining all this very concisely and articulately. Did you not watch it?
I haven't checked it out yet. I was going to review it live on stream.
Okay. All right. Well, so I went to Jay and said, let's do this debate with Corey. This was my 3rd time in 2 years trying to get him to do that. And he said, no, Corey's a psychopath. And I was arguing with him about that. I said, Corey is not a psychopath. He's a totally like intelligent, civilized, civil, calm, articulate guy who I've done lots of debates with. And so it seems to me like you're just scared of debating him because you keep making these weak excuses. So at this point, Jay Dyer says to me, he says, well, how about you debate me on what? You're a Protestant, right? And I said, well, okay, Jay, I'll debate you, but we're going to debate the thing we're actually arguing about. We're not going to pivot to some random topic just because it's more in your wheelhouse. Let's debate the disagreement. Let's debate what's on the table. So that's what I said. He blocked me. We were mutuals. He blocked me and then posted that I was scared to debate him, which is just a lie.
So, I mean, you don't think that this is like psychopathic behavior here, talking about wanting to kill your debate opponents? That doesn't strike me as like rational behavior.
Right. So you're pivoting. This is what people do when they say things, you explain to them how they're wrong, and then they just pivot to the next thing. Well, maybe this one will get, and it comes across as dishonest. It comes across like you don't care about the truth because we're not having a conversation. You're not listening to what I'm saying. You're not apologizing for lying about me. You're not addressing whether or not Jay lied about me.
What's the truth that you want to get across? You want to debate Jay's motives? I'm not Jay. I'm a different guy. I don't know if you realize that. We're discussing Corey Mahler. I mean, I actually have history with this guy. He's had me blocked for the better half of last year because I called him out and ratioed him several times over his really idiotic takes. This dude is an actual psychopath. His solution, because he can't win debates against the orthodox, and he's afraid to do these debates. He won't do them. This is why he blocks these guys. Look, he says, do you believe traitors deserve some other treatment than to kill them? You think this is rational? Because this was the discussion that was being had. Is this guy sane? That doesn't strike me as sane. And you seem to.
What I really wanted was for you to acknowledge that Jay Dyer lied about me and that you just regurgitated his lie, but I guess we're not doing that. So let's move on. Yes, Corey, I guess, said that he wants Orthodox people to be killed. I don't know how serious that is. I suspect, and I can't speak for Corey, just like you can't speak for Jay, but I suspect that if you were to get him on a stream and ask him about it, he would probably walk it back, qualify it a lot of ways. It was probably like an internet banter, his frustration of dealing with people. But I don't know. Maybe he is serious. Let's say he is. Let's say he is. Does that mean he's not worthy of talking to?
I mean, it would make him a psycho, wouldn't it?
I don't know. Not necessarily. I would need to hear the arguments.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he would have to qualify what he means by wanting to unalive his debate opponents.
Why he thinks Orthodox people are traitors. I have no idea. I have no idea what his
I would assume if I were to take an educated guess. So back not that long ago, this was maybe like a year ago, he did some debate with James White about whether or not the Holy Spirit could sanctify like a black dude the same way that it could sanctify a white guy. I don't know if you watched that debate, but there was all this discourse here. It seems like his religion is almost like the worship of his race. Does it not strike you that way?
No, not at all. And Corey won that debate because it's true. There's a scientific study. I can send it to you if you want, but they looked at people who go to church and white guys who watch porn and go to church and black guys who watch porn and go to church. And what the study found was going to church attenuated the pornography usage for white men, but not for black men. Do you think that's interesting?
What, that they changed a behavior in a study?
Yeah, that the white men who were pornography consumers who went to church watched less pornography after they started going to church, but the black men did not.
So do you think the Holy Spirit is limited? Because the debate prompt was, can he sanctify a black man to the same degree that he can a white man? That would make God limited. Or do you not think the Holy Spirit's God?
No, but see, that's a really pedantic and weaselly debate prompt to try to avoid the core issue.
No, but
like, that's just like
that's theology. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about limitations of God himself.
Well, no, because Corey wanted to have a debate about race and religion, and then you turned it into this like thing of like
religion debate
right here. So it's just avoiding the issue. That's what it is.
How is that avoiding the issue if the prompt in that debate was literally, can the Holy Spirit sanctify a black man to the same degree as a white man? That would limit God, wouldn't it? Because it's asking.
Was that the exact prompt?
I'm pretty sure.
The Holy Spirit?
Let me.
Was that the exact word for word prompt?
Let me pull it up real quick. James White, Corey Mahler. Yes. Hold on here. I'll share the screen. This was on Bible Dingers, I guess. Assuming this isn't a repost. Debate topic: can the Holy Spirit sanctify a black Christian as much as a white Christian? So this is talking about the limitations.
Right.
Of
yeah. So that's a debate topic that is set up for failure for Corey. And I think he just took the debate to make his points to get the debate with James, even though they wouldn't give him a fair prompt. That's what that is.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
so you could say he took the L or he lost, but you're just being autistic and weaselly about it.
Being autistic and weaselly talking about theology. Yeah. I don't know, dude. I think God kind of matters. this is two different topics, right? So we could either discuss like, okay, what about like behaviors of certain, like, is race realism real? Or what is the capability of the Holy Spirit? And this debate seems to be about the topic: what is the capability of the Holy Spirit? Can the Holy Spirit sanctify a black Christian as much as a white Christian? So I mean, if you're taking that route, I mean, if you wanted to debate something else, he could have. But I remember that was the first thing that I thought of when I was watching this debate beforehand. I'm like, why would he even accept this prompt? Because it just seems like at the outset,
right,
you're arguing for like
because he had no choice, because that was the only way to get the debate, was to take a losing prompt. That's my opinion. That's what he did.
I don't know, man. I think we could go back.
But I thought he did quite strongly in the debate, because he actually did make good arguments about how. I can't remember the exact arguments because it's been a long time, so I'm not going to try to repeat them. But he did make arguments about how like the universe is limited in some ways. I don't know. I don't want to go there, but I don't even know why we're talking about this. Like, this has nothing to do with me and Jay.
Oh, we kind of went on a tangent. I was talking about kind of the history.
Yeah, it's a big tangent.
Yeah. But anyway, so he blocks me after this particular interaction here. But I mean, do you agree with this statement here? Because it kind of seems like you were agreeing with him. Yeah, Corey's about that life. That's why I love him. You made a separate comment on your YouTube saying like, after this week, I'm assuming your comment is more of a joke, right? Or it's like, yeah, after this week, I've had such a rough week with the orthos, I'm starting to agree with him. So do you want to clarify that a bit?
Yes, it's a joke. I have Orthodox friends who I really respect. It's called internet banter. Your thumbnail is a comment buried like 3 replies deep in the YouTube comment section. Must be a slow news day, huh?
Well, I mean, that's what we're here to discuss, right? So you said this is a joke.
Right. Well, no. So actually, I'm glad you said that, because it speaks to a more pertinent issue, which is like, let's get back to me and Jay, right? So we're having this argument, and I say, okay, well, let's debate this topic. And then Jay blocks me and says, I'm scared of a debate. Do you have any opinion on that? Do you think that Jay was in the right? Like, let's get into the weeds on that.
I don't know, man. It kind of seems like in that DM, you were trying to pivot into a Corey Mahler debate. Were you going to try to debate him on theology, or what? What was the subject that you guys were going to debate originally?
Are you deaf? I explained this already. It's in the video. I approached Jay asking him to do a Corey Mahler debate. Do you want to see the whole convo? Because it's on my Twitter from start to finish.
It seems like what was public, though. It seems like what was public was, good grief, you post so much, dude. It seems like what was public was basically like you're saying, like, this guy's running from me or whatever. Like, this dude doesn't want to debate me. You're trying to make it sound like you're trying to just set up a Corey Mahler debate. Because wasn't your repost here something like, let me see if I can find this real quick. I think your repost was something like, oh yeah, here you go. Challenged me to a debate, then blocked me when I accepted. Right. Very feminine.
Right. That's what happened. That's what happened. And his tweet is a lie. He said, I refuse to debate him unless my big brother was there. So one of us is telling the truth and one of us is lying. Who do you think is telling the truth and who do you think is lying here?
Well, I mean, I don't know you at all. So I would believe Jay, but I mean, would you debate him on theology or no?
No. Why would that make what? I don't do theology debates. I don't do that. How about Jay debates me on race realism or music theory? Or Magic the Gathering cards.
He would probably debate you on some of those topics if you called into a show, or you could even set one up. Probably, I'm sure he wouldn't mind doing that. What's the big deal about debating him on one of those subjects?
No, I'm making a point about things that are in my wheelhouse versus things that we might not even disagree on those things. I don't know. I'm making a point that when two people are arguing about something, and you say, okay, let's debate. And then you pivot to something that is in your wheelhouse that is not in the other person's wheelhouse. That doesn't make sense. So again, let me lay it out for you and see if you can actually follow. I asked him to do a debate with Corey. He said, no, that guy's a psycho. I said, he's not a psycho. You're just scared of him. And then he says, you lack discernment. In other words, I'm too stupid to understand that Corey Mahler is psychopathic. And then he says, how about I debate you on theology, right? This is like if you and me were arguing about tax policy and I said, okay, buddy, how about we do a public debate on race realism?
Sure.
Like
So,
it doesn't make sense.
So he says Corey is a psycho. Then he offers you a counter debate. So what's the big deal? What's the big stink? You're just what?
I said I accepted the debate and then he blocked me and then he lied about me. That's the stink.
Well, what he offered to you was a debate on theology, right? But you didn't accept that.
Right. I offered my own topic. So this is weird. This is this weird thing where for some reason, because you admit his tweet was mocking me and calling me scared, right? Like he tweets, he says
it's debate, right? There's a little bit of banter. I mean, you were mocking Orthodox Christians, saying like we should be killed. That I mean,
right. You're saying, right, but if you're gonna make fun of somebody
if that's a joke, dude, then somebody offering you a counter debate and then you whinging about it seems a little bit effeminate. I mean, just with all due respect.
No, I don't respect you, and don't call me effeminate. There's a difference between a joke that is obvious humor and lying about somebody in a slanderous way, misrepresenting what happened. Those are two different things.
Okay, so you're claiming that he's lying. You offer a debate back and forth, whatever. One's declined, one's accepted. You're saying no, I'm not doing the theology debate. You're saying you'd be willing to do some other thing, and then whatever. I mean, why the fixation on this to the point where you're like calling for Orthodox to be killed, but it's just a joke? I mean, this just seems like an overly pedantic back and forth situation where
it's
you actually
joke. You're the one making a stream about it.
Okay. I mean,
why do you care?
I was going to react to your video.
To my joke. Yeah.
So why are you crashing out over this particular thing? That just seems like
this is what you guys do. This when you have no point to make, you say he's crashing out. No, did he lie about me or not?
I'm not him, dude. You'd have to go talk to Jay. Why don't you go talk to him?
Right, but I'm telling you the facts, which I have receipts for, and then I'm telling you what he said. So are you capable of basic deductive reasoning? Like, can you look at what was said and determine whether or not
are you capable of basic deductive reasoning to see that Corey Mahler is a psycho when he's calling for the death of Orthodox Christians? I mean, do you want to defend? Do you want to defend that premise? I get that. I get that you want to backtrack now that you're on here on this platform. You want to backtrack from your statement and say, it's just a joke. It's no big deal.
Oh my fucking God. Are you autistic? This is the angle. I'm serious. Did you not hear me?
Yada, yada. It's just a silly little joke. Oh my goodness, dude.
Listen, dude, I just did a show. I had at least two Orthodox people call in. We had super civil, friendly conversations. You're trying to frame it like I'm trying to kill people. This is what you have. This is what you people do.
This is what the guy's literally saying. You've got zero discernment. You don't think this guy's a psychopath.
No, listen. Even if Corey is a psychopath, why are you scared to debate him? Why is Jay Mahler
scared to debate him? This guy is low.
Well, that's the excuse for not debating him. That's what everybody is saying. We're saying we're not going to debate that guy. He's a psychopath.
Because I understand if someone wants to reject a debate with him, the guy is psychotic. There's some people that don't care, though. Some people will have court discussions.
So let's go back to the original context now, which is Jay Dyer saying Protestants are scared to debate me. Right. So you can't have it both ways. You can.
That's true. If you have
no, it's not true. It's not true because Jay Dyer is scared of Corey Mahler. If Jay Dyer is scared of Corey Mahler, he won't do the debate. That's black and white.
Nobody's scared of this dude. The dude that runs a little stone choir, whatever. Lutherans can't debate, dude. No serious Lutheran's going to go and set up a formal debate with him. Stone choir is not a serious theologian, dude. He's debating whether or not the Holy Spirit can sanctify a black guy. Listen,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
He's debating whether or not this is possible. The guy believes in a limited God. How are you going to win any type of debate?
It's nothing but excuses. How dare you call me effeminate? All you do is you hand wring and make excuses instead of just nutting up and doing the debate.
You don't want to address any of this.
You know how easy it is to prove you're not scared of something? It's really fucking easy to prove you're not scared.
Yeah, why don't you go actually debate Jay Dyer? I mean, I appreciate you coming up on the show to at least defend your crazy views here, but dude, listen.
What is crazy? What is crazy? Wait, hold on. What's crazy?
Your agreement with Corey Mahler on this. Now you're backtracking and saying it's a joke.
Oh my fucking God. Well, I'm coming back around to serious at this point. Actually, a few more interactions with EO people, and I think I might be a true believer.
Yeah,
in the final solution.
exactly.
Yeah.
You and your psycho pope here, Corey Mahler, the Lutheran. Wonderful.
This is
With such exquisite views on theology. He believes in a limited God.
You guys don't care about the truth. You're not inquisitive. You're not interested in
what
the truth.
denomination are you?
What you're doing exactly the thing. You're trying to pivot to a theology debate.
You're saying we don't care about the truth.
We're not talking about theology. We're not talking about theology. We're talking about what happened, what the issue on the table is.
Why are you afraid to talk about the truth? What denomination are you? Are you a Lutheran like Corey? He was LCMS, but he was kicked out. He was excommunicated. What are you?
I'm not doing a theology debate. Why are you doing this? I'm not doing this with you.
You just said you Orthodox don't care about the truth.
Why are you pivoting? Why are you right? The truth about what happened. Why I'm here.
Answer a basic question, dude.
Why I'm here. What happened between me and Jay Dyer? You don't care.
What denomination are you?
I'm not answering those questions because that's you're pivoting.
Okay, so you're scared to answer basic questions, dude. What denomination is Corey?
No, you're a psycho. I'm not scared. You're a psycho.
Oh, true. I grant it. Let's grant it.
You see how that works? You get that?
Let's grant it.
Yeah. Thank you. So once you open that door, once you open the door to saying I'm not going to debate this person because he's a meanie poo-poo head, then nobody has to debate anybody for any reason. Therefore, Jay Dyer should stop saying people are scared. Do you track the logic? Do you follow what I'm saying?
Do I track the logic? You're too afraid to answer a basic question. You want to say
dodging again.
He's scared of Corey Mahler, the guy that literally says he wants to kill his debate opponents. Wonderful, dude. Oh, this guy.
Do you think Corey Mahler is going to come to your house and kill you if you debate?
I don't know, man. There are some pretty crazy Lutherans out there. Let's be real.
You're not a serious person.
Oh, I'm not a serious. I'm not a serious person. What denomination are you? Answer a basic question.
You pretend things are true because you are so afraid of weakening your position in any way.
Well, then why don't we discuss? Why don't we discuss my position then? Why don't we discuss my position rather than dance around it?
Right. Okay. So Corey Mahler is not going to come to your house and kill you.
Okay. So we're gonna move away from what the question is. Why don't we discuss my position? You're saying we're so scared of discussing our position. You're here. We can talk right now. We don't have to wait for your dad to come and chat.
I'm trying to talk to you, but you're a little slippery weasel who keeps pivoting off of what's on the table. You've been doing that the whole convo.
You just want to discuss Jay Dyer's mean. I mean, can we get past point one? Let's grant it. Jay Dyer's mean. Let's grant it.
Okay, so point two is, why is somebody being a psychopath a good reason not to debate them?
Oh, well, maybe that would come down to personal choice. No, don't you think when you have a big platform, you can choose whether or not to engage with psychopaths?
Okay, I'm walking you through it. Now, point three is, if you make personal choices not to debate people, why would you hound and harass and insult other people who don't want to debate you?
Why not?
Wouldn't you respect their personal choices?
Yeah, who cares? If he does, so what? So what? It's an open platform. You can say what you can say.
So there's no ethics, there's no principles, there's no principles, there's no consistency. That's what triggered me in the first place, is the lack of principled consistency in Jay Dyer's behavior. That's why I called him out. So
you want to control his behavior then?
I'm saying he is a hypocrite, right? So I'm just saying the guy is a hypocrite.
What would you? Well, that's the name of your channel, isn't it? I Hypocrite. Is that the whole thing? Is that your whole shtick?
No, that's not the whole thing. No. Okay. There's a lot more.
Okay. So, do you want to discuss truth like you were talking about a moment ago? Or
you're trying to pivot to theology? Or do you guys have one wheelhouse you're comfortable? You have one thing you're comfortable with, and you just got to move the conversation every time to that thing.
Going back to Jay Dyer's mean. Jay Dyer's a hypocrite. Jay Dyer's not a nice guy.
I'm good. We didn't get anywhere because you're a weasel. You won't address what's on the table, and you just want to pivot, and we can call it a day. All right. Thank you.
All right, man. Have a good one. See ya. All right. Well, that was a complete waste of time. Wow. Yeah, what's your denomination? I will not tell you my denomination. You're a weasel. You keep trying to ask me such deep questions like, what do I actually believe? Good grief. Yeah. This guy is not a psycho. Do you believe traitors deserve some other treatment than other than this? Your solution is to kill the Orthodox? Oh, you're afraid to talk to this guy. You're afraid to debate this dude. Come on, bro. Yeah. Ashamed of his church. Doesn't want to discuss his actual beliefs. Good grief. Going back to this topic, I mean, is this not just an absolutely brain dead prompt to accept and defend? This is literally the position that dudes like Corey Mahler are defending. Can the Holy Spirit sanctify a black Christian as much as a white Christian? This is what this dude's defending. He's saying, no, the Holy Spirit is incapable of doing this. That is what Corey Mahler is arguing for. He's arguing for a limited God, a God that cannot do this thing. The dude elevates his positions on race over his theology. He'd rather have a completely limited, incapable God than just accept that God can work in the hearts of both of these groups. I mean, it's just insane, dude. What a slop, unserious theological position. No wonder this guy would not give his denomination at all. I'm not telling you my denomination. You're just being a slippery weasel. Good grief, bro. Please pray for the Dormition of the Theotokos parish. Our small parish has no priest, and decisions need to be made about what will be done in our parish. Absolutely, guys. Make sure to pray for this dude's parish. God bless you, bro. Thank you for the super chat. This guy is just a sloppier, balder Owen Benjamin. Lord of mercy. It's just a joke. It's just a joke. Yeah, exactly. It's just a joke when I'm saying, like, yeah, after this week, after the last 24 hours, I agree with him. We should just kill the Orthodox. Good grief, bro. These are the people that we're dealing with. See, they can't actually discuss theology. They can't actually discuss theology. So they'll pivot to literally anything else. This is why the Protestant Reformation was so violent, dude. I mean, do you realize this? This is why the 30 Years' War happened. This is ridiculous. What am I hearing? You're doing a great job. I don't like this debate topic. So also let me debate this topic. Yeah, right. We're going to cry at that a religion debate putting God as the first principle before race realism is Weasley, then religion is. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying is God is his race. His religion is literally his race. If you're accepting prompts like this, can the Holy Spirit sanctify a black Christian as much as a white Christian? Like, you're limiting God. You're limiting God to just take a jab at people. This is so dumb. I mean, absolutely blasphemous position to hold to. Yeah, somebody tell St. Philip the black eunuch he baptized as chalked. Good grief, dude. The context of Jay asking people to debate was on the Tucker interview, which fundamentally asked people to debate theology on the nominalism issue. Exactly. Mahler, who he's described as an intellectual giant, agrees to a bad debate prompt, but knowingly chose to do so because reasons. Yeah, I had to give my based FBI statistics. The only way I could do my FBI statistics rant was to accept the most blasphemous debate prompt ever, which limits God. It's just so dumb. Hypocrite was cool with Jay when Jay brought him views in an interview. Now he's got a problem with him. One of the most accurate names ever. Right. Well, the Hypocrite guy was big like in 2016. I don't know what ended up happening to him. He had like a pretty good meme platform. I remember back in the day, I ran a 30K follower Facebook meme page, and this dude posted pretty good stuff back then and had some followers. I don't know what ended up happening. Mahler made the case numerous times to kill Orthodox. In seriousness, his position that opponents shouldn't be debated is out of fear. Right. Lord of mercy. Is Mahler his lover? Is that why he's so? Yeah, well, I think he looks up to the guy theologically or something. Stop holding this guy accountable. You're going to make him cry. Good grief. Well, to be fair to him, he actually came and he had a conversation. So flowers to the dude for coming and having the chat with me. It wasn't necessarily the most productive, but he came and he did it. So good to him. You talk to Orthodox folks, but can't debate Jay Dyer and clearly have opinions on his interview. Why not just go debate him on your disagreements? Right, exactly. He's non-denom for sure. That would be my guess. He goes to business church, dude. Goes to that business church. Why on earth would Jay debate that nobody? Yeah. Well, he doesn't really have an emotion either. The amount of projection from this doofus is wild. Good grief. Didn't expect such a good opening of the stream, right? Exactly. By the way, guys, if you're tuning in, make sure to smash that subscribe button. We are going to be going into some other subjects. This will be more like a variety stream today. I got people coming from this show here, this podcast, where they were talking about whatever. It's in the thumbnail. Basically, they're talking about the husband wants to become Orthodox. The wife doesn't. So we're going to have a nice chat about that. And it'll be interesting. IPK for real. Their accusations are their confessions every single time. Right. Not wanting to engage and waste time with an insane person is different from being afraid to debate someone and losing. Exactly. Why would you ever take that prompt unless you... Exactly. I think he does agree with this prompt. If you went and you watch this debate, go and look at what he's arguing for, dude. Go and look at what he's actually arguing for. He's not arguing just to like list off FBI statistics and make some like based clip. He's arguing in favor of this view that it is the Holy Spirit's incapable of sanctifying a black guy as much as he can sanctify a white guy. That is the actual position, which is brain dead theologically. You're arguing for a limited God. Notice when I brought that up, by the way, notice when I brought that up with this gentleman, by the way, he started sweating. He didn't want to continue the conversation. He wanted to move on to J. Dyer mean. That's all these guys have. J. Dyer's a hypocrite. J. Dyer's a mean. There's double standards. There's no objective standard. So what? Grant it all and move on to point B, dude. This is ridiculous. Well, I mean, grant that I'm a bad guy. Let's grant that I'm bald. Who cares? Grant it and move on to the substance. Why would you ever? Yeah, exactly. Take the prompt unless you agree. Thank you for the memberships. I appreciate you, bro. Thank you. Thank you so much. Why is LP scared of answering theology? I don't know, dude. I think it's because he's a non-denom and he doesn't want to discuss it. That's probably why. You guys don't care about truth. What do you think is true? We're not talking about it. Yeah. I did notice that. You guys don't care about truth. All right, let's talk about truth. What denomination are you? I'm not answering those questions. I'm not you're a slippery weasel. I'm not answering your he didn't reveal his denomination because he wants a massive net. Same thoughts as business, church, and God logic. A little more effeminate, though. He did not like that comment. Don't you ever call me effeminate, boy. Don't you ever call me effeminate or ask me what my denomination is. Those are two things you never ask a man. You don't ask a man his denomination. Jay already schooled Handsome Truth on his race realism by questioning his grounding. P.S. No church without fathers like St. Cyril of Alexandria. Therefore, no Lutheranism. Genius. Good grief. LP, I Hypocrite, has said that he refuses to attend divine liturgy because the Orthodox priests don't talk about politics in their homilies. I need that political church, dude. I need that based in red-pilled politics church, dude. I need GOP church. I need well, I don't know. That guy doesn't strike me as like a Zio slop, dude. I need LARPy. I need Fash LARPy church. Oh no, why would I ever debate something legitimately serious like theology? That's ridiculous. And that's all you want to do is talk about the true faith. How horrible. I know, right? I know. Why would you want to discuss truth? You guys don't care about the truth. Well, let's discuss the truth. We're not talking about that. Yeah, it's just a joke. I call that like throwing the rock and hiding the hand. Right, exactly. Jay called Mahler a psychopath, and LP said no. Proceeded to explain Mahler's psychopathic characteristics without realizing. Yeah, exactly. Good grief, bro. All right, let's take a look. So I do want to go watch this dude's like little 10-minute clippy here. So he said, this is his little clip. He says, Jay Dyer is terrified of Corey Mahler. He's scared, dude. He's running. He's running from Corey. Corey's just too high tier, dude. Corey with his limited God. Corey with a Holy Spirit that is incapable, apparently, of sanctifying black people to the same degree as white people. This high tier theologian. Look, Jay just knows as soon as he gets in there, He's going to hit him with the Yakub stare, dude. He's going to blast him with pure Agarthan white monster energy drink right into his brain. And Jay's going to be stun locked. This is just what's going to happen, dude. This is why, personally, I'm actually terrified of debating Corey Mahler. I know he's just going to hold me down and pour white monster into my mouth and send me straight to Agartha. And I don't want that to happen. I don't want that. I'm terrified of that. I'll admit that openly right now.
And against my better judgment, I tried to do that and he blocked me. So you guys all know who Jay Dyer is. He's
he blocked me. Corey Mahler blocked me a year ago. He won't even interact with me.
Ortho bro who recently went on Tucker Carlson, kind of upset a lot of people when he essentially said that transgenderism is downstream from Protestantism.
Truk.
Upset a lot of Protestants. And then I spent like the last couple of days demanding that they come debate him. People who criticized his take on X, like Orrin McIntyre or some other guys. And apparently they're not debating him. And so he's calling them cowards over and calling everybody a coward. And, I've been watching this behavior from Jay for like 2 years and I've been biting my tongue and it's been hard. I try to get along with everybody. So I don't like to like call people out or be.
Oh, you're a real likable fella. He tries to get along with everyone. Yeah, I should just kill all the Orthodox. He tries to get along with everybody. Yeah, but I'm just joking. When I say I want to unalive all you guys, I'm just a little silly joke. I'm just trying to get along with everyone.
Be antagonistic or confrontational, but I've been trying to get him to debate Corey for 2 years now, and he is scared. He is like obviously terrified of actually debating Corey Mahler and keeps making these really lame excuses. If you don't know Corey Mahler, you probably haven't been on my channel much, but he is a Lutheran who had a very popular podcast called the Stone Choir Podcast, and he likes to do debates. Very intelligent guy,
super duper intelligent. I want to find some of the clips that I was watching from the time of this debate, because this debate was absolutely wild. Maybe I'll go and I'll preview just a little bit, but I want to show you where this guy is actually defending the prompt. Can the Holy Spirit sanctify a black Christian as much as a white Christian? Because this is just such a brain dead topic to make. Now, I agree. James White's performance in this debate was not the best. I think it was honestly kind of a boring debate to watch, but he did defend this prompt. This is like a brain dead take.
Speaks fluent German, a little Greek, I believe practiced law in Germany. So you have to be pretty high Q to like practice law in a second language. So he's a smart guy, very well read as well. And incidentally, not a big fan of orthodoxy. Here's a tweet from him from yesterday. So again, seeing this, I was like, well, maybe people wanted me to try. I was like, maybe I'll try. So
can't be tolerated in the West. They're all traitors. We should unalive them. Yeah, it's a pernicious foreign LARP. Notice anybody who tries to debate the theology or is discussing Eastern Orthodoxy, all they do is they argue on the basis of race. This is what they do. They can't debate the theology. They say, no, I'm Western. This means I have to be gay. This means I have to be in the fake and gay denominations that have overrun and ruined Western civilization. I have to accept either, if you're a Roman Catholic, I'm going to be Vatican II Roman Catholic so I can LARP as if I am in medieval Western Europe. So I can LARP as a based crusader because this is what I see in the movies and this is what they tell me my ancestry is. It's always some dumb race LARP. That is not what Christianity is, dude. I hate to break it to you. We got to actually discuss the truth, which involves theology, not your fantasy LARP, not the, I got to be a base crusader, or I want to be a base German Lutheran. Oh, because the Germans are super based because I want to be like a Wignat LARPer. That's my whole podcast, Stone Choir. Oh, I want to be the edgy race guy, and I can do Wignat optics all day. Wow, so deep, such deep theology. Notice this is always the stupid reason that people that cannot argue the theology, They'll just say, it's a foreign LARP. I gotta be a part of the LCMS that has ordained rabbis, that has furry pastors, that has the most degenerate stuff that you could possibly imagine. I gotta go be LCMS. This is what I gotta do. Or if you're a Roman Catholic, I got to go LARP as a Roman Catholic with a pope that literally invites the invaders of our people into our country, no matter what. He literally went and he venerated the little illegal immigrant statue thing on the beach. He was like, yes, we need to bring more illegal immigrants into Europe. We need to do this. This is something we got to do. It's just a LARP, dude. This whole like, anyway, I got to stop ranting. I'll literally work myself up. These people drive me nuts.
I said, hey, Jay, you know, people really want to see this. I know I'm hounding you a little bit. This is my third time asking in 2 years. And so 2 years ago, I tried to set it up because I was doing a bunch of debates with Corey at the time and people wanted this. They asked for it. And at the time, Jay Dyer said that Corey was too small. He only had 10,000 X followers, and so he wasn't worth Jay's time. And that's kind of a weak excuse when the person you're talking about is like clearly very intelligent. It's already shaky. But then like seeing the way Jay acts on X, he keeps like getting into.
And by the way, all that stuff that I was saying before, I'm not saying the West is bad or that I'm anti-West. I'm saying, look, if you actually have this Western heritage, that doesn't mean you need to embrace the heresies of our time, the weakness of our time. You should search for the truth and build up a better, more Christ-like West, a stronger West. I'm not saying you have to become Eastern or LARP as if you're some kind of like Slav or something, if you're not. That's not what Orthodoxy is about. Seek the actual truth. Make your homeland better. Don't just LARP by accepting whatever modernism is going on today. You don't have to submit yourself to a weak and fake institution like the Lutheran Church, like this dude's church. He's probably a non-denom. You don't have to do that. Submit yourself to Christ and his church. That doesn't mean you have to be a Slav. This is just so dumb.
Beefs with people every day and be like, come debate me. You don't know it. Come debate.
Dude, correct. The West used to be Orthodox. Go back if you want to be a real, like first millennium Christian, you want to practice the same faith as the first millennium Christians in the West, become Orthodox. Become Orthodox. You can actually have that and it won't be a LARP. And you don't have to pretend to be a Slav to do so.
And he's like doing this with people who have like 300 followers like every day. I'm sitting there like, oh, that guy's worth your time? Some rando with 300 followers is worth your time? How does that work? But I didn't say anything. Again, I don't like to rock the boat. I try to get along with everyone. I had nothing against Jay personally. But then like a year later, about a year ago, people were again asking me. So I said, hey, Jay, do you want to talk to Corey? And now he says, no, that guy's a psychopath, which is like, you know, what are you talking about? Like he's a lawyer. He's very intelligent. I've never seen anyone get a rise out of Corey. He's basically docile in terms of temperament, almost emotionless, almost. Every once in a while, he'll
he's almost like he's incapable of feeling. It's almost like, like he's an actual psychopath. Yeah, I've never seen anything concerning from this guy. I've never seen it. I've never seen him call for people's deaths or anything like that. But then when I do see it, I say, yeah, Corey's about that life. That's why I love him. I actually love that he's a psycho. I think that's really cool. I think that's really based and actually super, super based, actually. I love that.
See a little wry smile. The corner of his lip curls up when he thinks his opponent.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, I've never seen anything that would suggest he's a psychopath. It's almost like he has no emotions and he stares at you with dead eyes. When he gets mad, he just paces in his room and mumbles to himself. Sometimes I notice he's like, I walk into the bathroom, he's like choking himself blue, you know? It's like normal.
And is saying something that proves his point. Other than that, almost like no emotion. So I don't know what that is even supposed to mean. Like he's a psychopath, so I'm not doing it. So, you know, it just came across.
Yeah, he's just, yeah. I mean, everybody caught that. The 300 subscriber people call into his show. That is what the call-ins are for, dude. for the people that have no following. So everybody can chat with him. Doesn't matter your size, whatever. He's saying he's not going to set up a formal debate with somebody with no following, right? But in this case, he's not going to set up a formal debate with somebody who's literally insane. And I don't necessarily blame him. I don't necessarily blame him for doing that. I mean, there are probably some people that don't mind rage baiting a crazy person, but you know, I don't blame him for not wanting to have a discussion with somebody that literally thinks, oh, you're all race traitors. You're all race traitors. You deserve the same treatment. You deserve to be on the line, boy. You don't worship your race. You're going down, boy.
To me, like Jay Dyer was scared of Corey. But again, I didn't say anything. I kept my mouth shut until now. Just recently, another year later, Jay's calling everyone a coward who won't debate him. And it's like, I'm seeing these tweets and it's
true. Well, you know what? I can't call this guy a coward. I can't. He can't. Well, I don't know. Maybe I still can. He came onto the show at least to have a talk. So that's good. But he was certainly afraid to talk about theology, like anything of substance. He just wanted to discuss Jay is mean. Jay's a hypocrite. I mean, I guess that's true to brand. Is that like his whole thing? I'm going to be real with you. I don't watch this dude's show, the Hypocrite guy. Is that all he does? He just like tries to expose double standards or something, some like arbitrary standard he's invented in his mind. That sounds like a crazy idea for a podcast, dude.
It's like my eyes twitching, like, oh my gosh, man, really? Really? You're the one who's running from the debate. And so I ask him again in the DMs in private, hey man, would you debate this? I know I've asked you a lot, so sorry to bug you, but people really want it. And I think it would be a good debate. And he says again, no, that guy's a psychopath. And I said, well, I've done like 5 debates with him and he's extremely calm and civil and he is extremely intelligent and well-read. So it kind of seems like you're scared and you're making excuses. I said this to him, right? I was at the gym and then I was like, I wonder if he'll unfollow me. And sure enough, when there's a reply from him, he has unfollowed me, which I sort of expected. And I can't blame him too much because he's like the big deal and I'm Mr. Nobody and I'm kind of ham.
Is that really the whole thing for his show? He searches for like contradictions. Like he's like, I got you, Jay. You do call-in debates with guys with 300 subscribers, but you won't debate Corey Mahler, who is literally a crazy person that has 10,000 subscribers. I mean, what are we doing, dude?
Him, but still, it's like, look, dude, I'm not like trying to antagonize you. I'm telling you, we're mutuals on X. We did a show together, which I appreciate. And I'm just telling you like how I see it, how this looks. I guarantee you, I'm not the only person who thinks that. I'm not the only one who sees him refusing to debate Corey Mahler.
Just like some random anon. Some random anon with 56 views. I'm not the only one. My alt commented on there.
And thinks that makes sense with all his other behavior and the way he treats and talks about other people. So Jay messages me after unfollowing. He goes, oh, I'm a coward, huh? Well, how about you debate me if I'm such a coward? And I send him a voice message. I said, Jay, I'm calling you scared of Corey Mahler. Debating me doesn't disprove that, you know? If a pro fighter turns down a fight with another pro fighter and then some kid calls him scared, so he punches the kid in the face, everybody doesn't look at that and go like, wow, he really showed him he's not scared. It doesn't work that way. You know, I said to Jay, I said, look, man, I'll debate you on the topic that we're disagreeing about, which is whether or not Corey Mahler is a psychopath or you're just scared of him. Because
we kind of just did that now. I mean, that is the subject that he came on to discuss with me. So at least he's a man of his word. I'll give him his flowers on that. He came on and he discussed whether or not Corey Mahler is a psychopath. So you can't say he's afraid to discuss that particular subject.
Oh, I left this out, but when I argued Corey's not a psychopath, he said, you lack discernment, and he unfollowed me. So if that's
I think that's pretty clear.
True, and I lack discernment, that should be a really easy debate for you, right? That should be an easy W. You just come on, you prove to everybody that Corey Mahler is psychopathic and that you're not scared of him. And then you get a W. But what does Jay Dyer do? He blocks me so he challenges me to a debate. I accept, and then he blocks me. Very feminine behavior.
Why is Jay scared to debate? No one's scared to debate that guy. That guy is a low tier sued. It is obvious Jay doesn't like to debate race. What are you talking about? He just had a debate with gosh, I don't know what the dude's actual position was. He was some sort of like, it wasn't even like race realism. He was just like, I think he was arguing for like a pure white nationalist position or something. I don't remember what his exact position was. It had some kind of theological entailments too, but the guy just called into his show. Oh, it was Handsome Truth. He just debated Handsome Truth on the race stuff. He called into his show. He does these kinds of discussions all the time. What are you talking about? Corey unironically is afraid of us. Corey Mahler has had me blocked for like a year. This guy is a complete coward. Corey Mahler. Can I even pull him up if he has me blocked? Let me see. Where is Corey? It's hard to pull somebody up once they block you, unless I can find somebody linking to him, linking to his page. Ah, there you go. Yeah, here you go. Look at this. Oh, dude, we're just so scared. We're so scared of this guy that is literally running from us, that doesn't want to interact, that is afraid of being ratioed on, ooh, spooky Twitter. Oh, what is, oh, dude, number go up. The numbers went up too high, Corey. It's just too spooky. Dude, I'm terrified of the numbers going up. Oh, his numbers can't be higher than mine.
Then he tweets about me and says that I won't debate him unless he debates Corey, which is a misrepresentation of what happened. No, it would make more sense for you to debate Corey, because then the question of your cowardice would be moot, right? But since you're scared of Corey, why don't you come and debate me about whether or not you are actually scared? Should be easy since I lack discernment, but apparently he's scared of me too, which is actually kind of sad.
Jay, I'm calling you a coward because you're scared of Corey Mahler. How would debating me disprove that in any way? I thought you're supposed to be good at logic, dude. Listen, I will debate you if you want, but the topic that we're going to debate is whether or not Corey Mahler is a psychopath or you're just scared of him, right? And I lack discernment. We can debate that. That's what's on the table. If you're trying to deflect,
debate me on whether or not you're scared to debate me. I mean, dude, is this really what we're doing? This just sounds very female. Like the entire, no offense. I mean, no offense. This is worse. This is worse. Okay. This is very cowardly behavior. The guy is like debating whether or not somebody else is scared to debate someone else. Come on and let's talk about your character, please. This is what I want to do. I don't want to debate the substance. I want to talk about whether or not you're a bad person. That's ultimately what it boils down to. I don't want to do any theological debate. I don't want to talk about the truth. I want to talk about whether or not you're a bad guy.
Theology debate with me? I don't know why you would do that. It's kind of a bad look.
That's a bit correct. Juvenile. That would be the better term.
Corey knows his shit inside out. I don't. So it's not really helping you beat the scared allegations.
Now, does that sound to you like I was refusing to debate him unless he debates Corey? I may not be an expert in theology, but I'm pretty sure bearing false witness is frowned upon. Which, by the way, I think Corey, I'll say this too. I think calling Corey a psychopath is...
Yeah, don't call him effeminate. You're being a big meanie. Did you notice that? He was like, don't you ever say I'm effeminate.
Also slanderous behavior. I don't think that's very Christian at all, honestly. You know, I understand being scared of Corey. He's very intelligent. He's very well read. He's good at debate. He knows his stuff. But you're scared of me now too. I don't know why his fans, Jay's fans, let him live this kind of stuff down. The way he acts, like that's the thing, you know. I'm not like, oh, if you don't debate somebody, you're a pussy, unless that's your attitude. If your attitude is to call everybody who won't debate you a coward and a pussy, then you should be willing to take all comers. And if you're not, then you're a hypocrite. You know, Jay seems like a smart guy, probably good at debating, very well read, knows a lot of stuff. But when I see people acting in a way where they lack ethics and integrity.
Right. How do you know Corey knows anything when you don't even know theology, dude? You won't even admit what denomination you're a part of. You won't discuss theology. You won't have these types of discussions. How would you know he knows his stuff, dude? This is why you're deceived by these types of guys that literally believe in a limited God. Goes to, I don't think this guy, I don't think Corey Mahler actually goes to a church. Corey Mahler was kicked out of the LCMS. He was excommunicated. LCMS is kind of, I mean, he was excommunicated from the LCMS. So I don't even know if he attends church anymore. So you're taking your theology from a guy that debates on the basis of a limited God. You're taking your theology from a guy that elevates race over the truth. You're taking your theology from a Lutheran, first off. I mean, what are we doing here? I don't even know what denomination this guy's a part of. If he's a non-denominational, look, I get it. Maybe theology's not your deal. But if you're going to be calling somebody out on the basis of theology and promoting somebody else on the basis of theology, wouldn't it make sense? Wouldn't it make sense that you would know something about theology? I don't even know what this guy believes, right? He won't even acknowledge it.
Integrity in that way.
So why should I listen to anything you have to say on this subject? You won't defend what you believe. I don't even know what you believe.
I can only ignore it for so long until I call it out, which then gets you blocked because some people have very fragile egos. Am I right? But it's weird to me that your fans put up with that. That's the part I don't get, because it's like I would never challenge somebody to a debate and then block them when they accept. I wouldn't do that. And what's weird is, like, you know, when I had asked him to debate Corey on
that's a good point. The Corey Mahler guy is extremely boring to listen to. I mean, look, I'm just going to find whatever portion this guy's talking and we can listen to him. This is how entertaining his debates are. Look at this. Come on, play, dude.
Or at least a good chunk of his rebuttal time, to denigrate his own people and praise the foreigner. Scripture certainly has some things to say about that and men who do that sort of thing. But the question, a core question, I guess I may as well answer because it keeps coming up, even though it's not the matter we are debating, it's not the resolution. What is the gospel? And the gospel, of course, is justificatio sola gratia sola fide sola Christo.
The gospel is sola fide. The gospel is sola fide. This guy is so low tier. Not only is he boring, he's low tier. The gospel is sola fide. Oh my goodness, bro. The gospel is the solas. Okay.
Twitter the one time, he said he's a psychopath. A lot of his followers were like liking that tweet, like, yeah, good, the debate's not happening, which I found very odd behavior. It's like, why are you guys happy that there's not a really good debate happening? That doesn't make any sense to me. The only way I can make sense of it, and look, I hate to speculate too much, but the only way I can make sense of it in any way is that it's like a race cuckoldry thing. Because Corey is like racist, right? He's a racist dude. He has strong opinions on race. That's what
he gets super excited. He just notice when he says that he's like, that's really why I like him. He's super racist. I really like that. That's so cool.
Probably, I guess, where the charge of psychopathy comes from, I guess. And so the only reason to be like, oh, we can't give this guy a platform, we can't give him air, we can't give him attention, it's because you're like a racial cuckold. You're a self-loathing white who thinks that white people.
Yeah, whatever, dude. You don't know what you're talking about. Go debate. Go debate Jay. Go debate Jay on this, okay? I mean, we just had a conversation kind of adjacent. I mean, I feel like we didn't get into any substance at all. The guy just refused to answer very basic questions.
Should not take pride in themselves, should not have a high opinion of themselves, which then, like, if that's the case, I wouldn't want to get into that either. If I can't relate. Again, I can't relate. I am.
Yeah, he got so excited. He's like, oh, he's racist. Ooh, dude, I love it. He's so racist.
Racist, as you all know, I have a video called I Am Racist. But if I wasn't and I was a racial cuckold, I'd probably want to keep that under wraps, because that is just not really popular these days. There's a lot of white people who don't really like to see that kind of thing, see that kind of, you know, hand wringing about racism and so forth. So that's the only, like, so for them not wanting the debate to happen, that's the only thing that makes sense to me, is that they're like a bunch of racial cuckolds in his following.
That's so funny, dude. He's like, oh, dude, I love Corey Mahler. He's so racist, dude. He's so cool. Dude, I've never seen somebody like that before. This is for the frame mug. Keep up the good work. That's right, boy. That's right, boy. That's right. We getting in with the frame mug. This proves the mall hair debates just to debate for no reason. Just takes a losing prompt for what? Yeah, you guys don't care about the truth. You don't care about the truth, boy. I'm going to take a prompt I don't believe in, just so I can give you some based and red-pilled FBI statistics. So cool, dude. It's 2016 again. New YouTube for him. New YouTube name for him. La Effeminate. Good grief. In the filth, dude. Clip that up. Clip up that interaction, bro. You're like the clip master. Make some based clips. If he wants his priest to talk more politics, then you should probably go to a non-denom church. Oh, wait. Yeah, exactly. That's probably why he goes to the non-denom church. They're like, listen, we got to talk about Israel. We love Israel. We love Israel. Jay is realistic about race anyway and discusses negative patterns. It's just subordinate to theology. Yeah, these guys are worshiping their race, dude. I mean, it's just so wild, bro. First, these idiots can't understand hierarchical views, distinctions, and first principles. Well, you know who else is like a Corey Mahler fanboy? That other Paul dude. The dude, the ankle biter, the pick-me Paul guy. He's a Corey Mahler fanboy too. That guy he did a debate on the same exact subject, didn't he? Other Paul race. I think he did a race mixing debate or something. That's all these guys care about. It's just crazy, bro. Other Paul race mixing. Is that what it is? Or I think the guy just called him racist. Or he was debating some low tier dude, but where is it? Dog. I think it was on. Somebody send me that link. Somebody go look for the other Paul race mixing debate link. I want to pull that up. Notice how you think the substance is the actual underlying beliefs and theology. He thinks the substance is proving who's being more hypocritical. Well, yeah, exactly. I care more about your motives, sir. I care more about you being a little too sassy. You can't call me effeminate, y'all. If you start doing this kind of thing, look, I'm out of here, sister. Don't talk to me about being effeminate. These guys are the white version of Black Hebrew Israelite. Why won't Jay debate my wife's boyfriend? Good grief. God's grace being contingent on race is an absolute spoonhead take. Dude, it's so dumb, bro. Good grief. I'm sorry. I'm usually a lot more charitable, but this is just such a dumb take, dude. This is so brutal. I'm sorry, man. When you elevate race to the degree that you're like denigrating God, that's rough. Don't you ask my denomination, boy. You get out of here with that, boy. By bringing up the Corn church stats, wasn't he trying to prove the Holy Spirit couldn't sanctify Black people as much? Hypocrite seems to. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing, though. They don't think about the entailment to this position. They're just like, dude, I just got to be based and talk about how, Black people bad. Like, that's like the whole position. It's just like Black people bad, therefore God limited, ? What? I'm just picturing this guy logging into Roblox to attend the white and only version of Lakewood. Good grief. Hypocrite, I'm not crashing out. Proceeds to crash out about not crashing out. So true. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it, dude. Screw it. Jay should debate Mahler just to slap Hypocrite's top guy so everyone can see how retorted he is. Very true. What's your ethnicity? You look kind of Balkan. Dude, I ain't Balkan at all. I'm like what 100% English. I'm not even like slightly mixed or anything like that. It's all beans and toast over here. I'm a beans and toast man. I need more subs. Time to leech off of Jay. So true. Truk. Jay, you want to come on my show, dude? We're going to come on my show to review the discussion about whether or not Jay's mean. Jay, come on my show. We'll discuss the guy discussing whether or not you're mean. It's called not casting pearls before swine. Very true. Very true. Lacking discernment. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yo, Cleve, were you around for the 2014, 2016 alt-right TRS days? Thankfully, putting me in orthodoxy kept me from being completely brain blasted. Yeah, I mean, around 2016 for sure. I was around in the meme circles. I used to run a meme page back then. It was like right-wing memes. It was a right-wing meme page that got blasted by Mark Zuckerberg for posting the most innocuous Israel meme ever. It wasn't even edgy. It was just like a very basic. Like, they just ban you for everything. I deleted the entire account. It had 30,000 followers. It was ridiculous. Hypocrite sounded like a simp and fanboy for Mahler. Like, why is he so obsessed with having Jay debate Mahler? I don't know, dude. This is more analogous to a pro fighter getting challenged by an amateur who says he wants to unalive other pro fighters. Yeah, right. Yeah. It's like going and setting up a fight with Tyson the day after he bites that guy's ear off. Yeah, the guy's boring. Yeah, oh yeah, we got to that super chat already. Can we not recognize Jay faux pas here? Dude, I think you're coping, bro. I think you guys are coping. Just go debate the guy. If you want to debate him so bad, you can always call in. You can always call in, dude. It's not that difficult. Mahler really does believe sanctification depends on the extent of your physical, mental qualities. Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's what it seemed like he was arguing for in his debate. He was saying these guys have like a lower IQ. Therefore, the Holy Spirit can't sanctify them as much because sanctification is somehow tied to intelligence. This is just dumb. This is stupid. Let's be real. This is theologically bankrupt. Theologically bankrupt. Can you argue that there are certain traits in certain races? Sure, genetics exists. You can argue that. Do you then argue that God is limited based off of those differences? Absolutely not. That is so dumb. Look, dude, I don't care what race you are. I want you to be orthodox, dude. I want you to enter into the church and be saved, bro. That's what I want. I don't elevate race to the level of my God. It's just so dumb. Is IP Mahler's agent or boyfriend? I can't tell. Grief. I don't know, dude. The other Paul's premiering a hit video on you are who cares? That guy's an ankle biter. He doesn't get any views unless he talks about me. Good for him. At least he's being smart. At least he's being smart with what he's doing on YouTube. He knows that is how he can get views. Anything else he talks about, he gets like 2,000, 3,000 views. So, maybe it'll give me some content to react to. Another mark against Protestantism. They read this race stuff into it, and without a normative authority, no one can say it's not true. Right. Yeah, it's all, it's he said, she said. It's he said, she said. Go ask a bishop. Go ask a bishop of the Orthodox Church whether or not they think black people can be sanctified to the same degree as a white guy. They're going to look at you like you're dumb. They're going to say, look, I'm going to assign you a penance. You need some spiritual growth, my friend. Corey Mahler needs to be an edgelord on X because it's boring and he's boring in real life. Speaks in monotone, and Jay debated Richard Spencer. Right. Not afraid. Correct. Not afraid of racists. I honestly do think that Richard Spencer guy was a plant. Did you notice that? You guys that were around in 2016, I mean, that whole movement took a complete right turn, and he came up out of nowhere and like asserted himself as like, I am the leader of the alt-right. I am Richard Spencer. Please put me on the news. I am now the leader of this movement. Like out of nowhere. People were like, huh? Who is this dude? Doesn't make any sense. Here he's purity spiraling into his vicarious tough guy audience. Yeah, true. Funny how these ethno-worshipping lol cows are just low tier as the people they hate. I hypocrite. He looks like good grief. As soon as I heard, have you heard about these scientific study? I felt like I was transported to 2016 again. Well, that's when he was relevant. That's when this dude was relevant. He was relevant in 2016. I know because I was there. I followed his like little meme page or whatever. I never followed his YouTube. I'd never watched him. But he posted memes, and that's what I was doing back then. I was posting memes. Memes back then kind of sucked. They were honestly kind of boring. But yeah, it's crazy, dude. Is Cleve a secret fellow bro core agent? Secret KGB agent activated. I've been activated immediately. IP doesn't understand, or is it LP? It might be LP. Sorry. LP doesn't understand the idea of repentance when it came to the study he brought up. Yeah, I don't know. This is just, well, they argue because like FBI statistics say this, like FBI statistics say, okay, look, these people cause more crime. This means obviously the Holy Spirit must be limited and can't sanctify these people as much as a white guy. FBI statistics apparently, God is like now bound to your FBI statistics. He's bound to this. He's limited by what the FBI says. Your God's not even stronger than the FBI. It's ridiculous. God is so mighty, he can sanctify a crippled, bedridden person with half their brain missing. Even Mahler and LP2, all that's needed is cooperation. That's a deficiency of their view, by the way. For these Lutheran dudes, sanctification is not an ontological change. And this is why they're so mixed up on this. Sanctification is just acting like a nicer dude, acting like a better citizen. It's civics. Sanctification is basically better civics. This is like the Lutheran viewpoint. They won't acknowledge that. They won't say that's the truth. But that's ultimately what it boils down to. Whereas with the Orthodox faith, sanctification, theosis, it's an ontological change. You're actually being transformed into the image of Christ. You couldn't hold this position with any kind of coherent theology. For them, it's just, sanctification means you're just like a better dude. You're like a nicer guy. He got a boost after October 7, but he has nothing to offer besides pushing the J button and can't stream. Even Fuentes knows his movement is plagued with this. Is he that big of a deal that Fuentes is talking about this guy? Or are you talking about Fuentes knows his own movement? What are you referring to? Is Fuentes actually talking about this dude? I find it hard to believe because the guy doesn't seem like he has much motion. What's this dude's name? Hypocrite. So he's got a ton of subscribers, but that really doesn't mean anything anymore. As far as views go, like, look at his videos. Look at this guy's videos. Look at the views he's getting on them. He's not as big a deal as he was in 2016. Dyer just started the online holy war. 2,400 views. This guy's got 126,000 subs. 2,400 views. Chili's fired him. 1.4K views. Dyer's terrified of Corey Mahler. 5,000 views. 4,000 views. Safe edginess. Oh, talking about normie women. 3,000 views. The dude's got no motion, bro. The dude's got no motion at all. 3,000. Oh, here you go. This one, he talks about Fuentes. He gets 12. I don't know, man. My stuff, look, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I've got literally 23K subs. I don't have that many subs, but my videos usually get like 10K average. For like 100-something thousand subscriber channel to get 2K, 1K, 5K, 4K views, that's not too good. That's the sign of like a guy that's becoming irrelevant, in my opinion. That's like if I were to look up, who's that other guy? William Albrecht. This is who I usually think of when I think of like dead channel syndrome. Okay, so like 58,000 subscribers. Okay, 58,000 subscribers, 800 views, 900 views, 900 views, 200 views. Dog. 200 views? Bro, on a 58,000 subscriber channel, you're getting 200 views, bro. Oh my dude, if that happened to me, I would quit. I would quit. I get 200 views on Rumble and I've got like 150 subs on Rumble. By the way, cheap plug. Go follow me on Rumble immediately. I put the video. If the video gets a little too spicy, I'll mark it members, but I will have it on Rumble absolutely free for anyone to view. So go follow me on Rumble right now. 200 views, bro, for 58,000. That's nuts. Anyway, all right. Enough of this. This is too much. I mean, Fuentes movement and all the people without worldviews or systems who only Jaceberg. Yeah. The only thing you can do is be edgy. That's all they got. All right. So in about 30 minutes, I've got that couple coming up to the show. They'll be talking about orthodoxy. Now, again, I don't want to present myself as some kind of authority because I'm not an authority on orthodoxy. That's not me. Go talk to your priest. Go talk to your bishop. But I saw this video. There was this couple here that was saying like the husband is interested in orthodoxy, but the wife isn't. Let me see if I can find that. This was a podcast called what is a podcast called? Hold on. She does a podcast that is called, I think, like Keeping It Real or something, or Let's Be Real. Husband wants to be Orthodox, wife doesn't. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, there you go. This one. So I saw this video pop up in my feed. It got a little bit of traction, 21K views. My husband wants to be Orthodox Christian, but I don't. So they did a little chat on this. They agreed. I left a comment. I said, if you guys want to come on the show, if you both want to come on the show and discuss it, you're more than welcome. God bless you both. I'm a former Protestant pastor and apologist who became convinced of orthodoxy. So they talk about this stuff. For a little while. So I said, hey, why don't we just come talk? Because sometimes I realize this. Sometimes when people, like if a wife is discussing with their husband, sometimes you don't want to like listen to what the husband has to say because they know them. They know their faults. They know maybe they get a little too feisty when it comes to, I don't know, doing the dishes or something. They know whatever downside there is there. So sometimes what's helpful is if you take, you allow them to listen to somebody else and they're saying the same thing. Then you get a little bit of confirmation. Then it's not just like, oh, he's saying this thing, but everybody at my non-denom or whatever denomination this person's from, everybody at my church says this other thing. Because then you're just like, oh, well, then this person's a weird one. You know what I mean? So I figured it would be nice. What denomination are they part of? Or were they a part of? We dive into theological convictions, yada, yada, yada. Shed a light on a real thing in our marriage. All right. So this is the podcast here. If you want to follow them, feel free to go ahead and do so. Being Real Podcast. Let's watch just a bit so we know what we're about to get into. But they're both going to come up on the show in like 25 minutes. So let's listen to some of the things. I'm going to skip forward to the differences in church tradition portion.
Tradition, the things that have been carried through the church. If you go to a divine liturgy versus something like an evangelical service, you'll see a lot more of an emphasis on the hymnography and the prayer.
Oh, is Corey Mahler in the chat? Is he in the chat? Call in, Corey. Call in. Is Corey in the chat? Somebody let me know.
And a lot less of the emphasis on a sermon. Obviously, at an Orthodox church, there's an altar, there are priests, there are deacons, there's bishops. So a lot more of the church structure that's described within the scriptures when they talk about presbyters, deacons, and obviously like Paul and Timothy were apostle, or Paul was an apostle, but the apostles kind of acted as bishops in the first century of the church. So they would go and ordain new people to be bishops, like Timothy, for example, of the church in Ephesus. Some people say like, oh, it's holier. It feels more holy or something. But really what they're trying to get at is there's a lot higher view of the sacraments. So of communion or the Eucharist, of baptism.
Compared to what though? What denomination are they? Somebody let me know. Did they say they were non-denom? Is that what they said? They said they were non-denom? Yeah, crazy. The dude wants to talk to us so bad. So true.
Of apostolic succession. So priests needing to be, they go through seminary, but not only that, they're highly trained.
Okay, so they were non-denom. I can see how that would be jarring, to be fair. I can see how that would be jarring for somebody coming from like, you go into the church, it's all cozy, it's very comfortable. It doesn't really ask much of you. Honestly, if you're like just leaving, I don't know their whole situation, so I'm not making assumptions. I'm just saying from like, I could see from somebody's perspective. So let's say like in the situation where somebody's a non-denominational Christian, they've been going to church for 5 years. But let's say they're just like a Sunday morning service person. They're not doing anything outside of that. They're not doing fellowship regularly. They're not really super plugged in. It's just kind of comfy. They can go in, they can leave, and then they build their entire like faith around a dialogue that they're having with God in their head, rather than actually being molded by somebody else, by being molded by a spiritual authority that God has appointed, right? By these bishops, by these priests, by the hierarchy that God has appointed. It's instead, it's you are building up the conception of what Christianity is based off of what you hear on a Sunday sermon and what you're doing in like a Bible study. So I could understand how that would be very jarring, especially like in the liturgical context. So you go in and you're used to like waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, like that, like going from that to like Kyrie eleison. That's jarring for people. I think honestly, he should probably have a lot of empathy. He should probably have a lot of empathy for his wife also, because dudes, like guys, I mean, the last guy wasn't too deep into this, but most guys are usually pretty dang intellectual. Like, we care more about the solid facts. Like, if my wife comes to me and she's complaining about some situation in her life, my man brain is like, I got to fix that. I got to come up with a solution. And any guy knows that's not what your wife wants. Your wife wants you to just like listen. Okay. And then after she vents, then you can get into some kind of a solution, right? They're more social. We're more rigid facts. So what guys do that's a big mistake, in my opinion, is when they become convinced of orthodoxy, what they do is they try to debate their wife, and that does not work. Because then what does that look like? It looks like you're coming across like a Jehovah's Witness with a pamphlet and you just bought into a cult. That's what it comes across as. You know what the pro-tier strat is, fellas? If you're in the same situation, the pro-tier strat, I tell this to everybody, and this works, by the way. If you're married and your wife's not on board, or let's say you're the wife and your husband's not on board, whatever, right? But let's talk specifically about husband in this situation. Husbands, if your wife's not on board, my advice to you, don't leave her alone in that Protestant church. As soon as you leave, they're just going to badmouth you. They're going to badmouth you to your wife. It's going to set this whole like bad situation going on. You should go to a Vesper service, make some friends. All right. Meet another married couple. This is the pro-tier strat. I'm giving you pro-tier social strat. Meet another married couple, invite them out for lunch or dinner, introduce your wife to the guy's wife or whatever. Now she's got a buddy. Now she's got a friend. So now you give her a safer place to land when she actually goes and she attends a divine liturgy. So you do this before you invite her to the actual church. So she's got a friend to go and attend with. Women are much more social. Not to say that none of them are intellectual. There are plenty of women that want to, dive deep into the theology and get into the weeds about this kind of stuff. But for the fellas, look, if you start off with that, they're going to think, where is this coming from, dude? Like you just got done digesting like 1,000 hours of Orthodox content. You're watching Alex Soren debates. You're watching my stuff. You're watching Jay Dyer. You're watching Jim Bob. You're watching Ubi Petrus. You're talking about Pope San Leo the Great. Like you're talking about this type of stuff. You're talking about the Gelasian decree. You're trying to like break down Hormizdas to her or something. She's just like, what are you even talking about? I'm used to going to church and singing Waymaker, dude. So this is why I think the pro-tier strat is, one, always stay after for coffee hour. The social piece is like essential. Okay. But you have to go and meet somebody that your wife can be buddies with. Go meet a married couple, invite them out to lunch. Then you give her a soft place to land. That's my advice. There are obviously other considerations. You should work with your priest on this if you have a working relationship with your priest. I'm just saying, be considerate of the situation, because this is really what you're asking, by the way. This is really what you're asking. You're asking them to leave their social safety net and move to another parish. This is what you're asking. That's a big ask for a woman. Women are obviously, they are more home-minded. They're more nesters. Okay. So you have to be empathetic with the ask. The ask is a lot for them. It's a lot more for them than it is for you. Okay. They're very social minded. You are like more intellectually minded. So you're like, well, duh, the idea is wrong. So obviously, if I put God first, I'm not going to make an idol out of people over that of my God. Right. So this obviously logically makes sense. So we have to go because this is the truth and this is false. But you got to realize from the wife's perspective, she's like, I love Lindsay. I love Cindy. I love Natasha. I have all my friends at this parish. You're like ripping me away from my friends group. You have to realize this is what's going through their head, and you have to be very empathetic with them over that. So the least you can do is give them a soft place to land. That's the least you can do. Okay. Anyway. Yeah. Back to the other guy. Hey, I want to unalive you guys. You need to talk to me. Why don't you want to talk with me? Come back here. I just want to talk to you. Yeah. The Corey Mahler, dude. Good grief. Cleve's strat should be called social presuppositionalism. It's like a 1-to-1 match. Right. Exactly. Well, you do have to think about these things. And, if they get upset, you can't think about what they're actually saying. Like if your wife or whatever gets upset at you, they say some things, you can't sit there and get upset about what they're saying. It's always some underlying reason, right?
Like that is their full-time job oftentimes, and they're there to serve the church. There's confession. So a lot of things.
If the woman is intellectual, then you could take another approach. Are you saying, what if it's like the man? What if it's like the man? Well, if the man is an intellectual, then these discussions can probably be had. But I don't think the guy's probably going to want to hear it from their wife. That's the problem. It's the dynamic. That would be the problem. Like if your wife is walking up to you and is like, babe, I'm smarter than you. I'm going to pre-sup my husband. That might not work so good, but I think the strat's the same. Make the friends, married couple, go out to lunch. He talks to the dude. They bond. He talks about some of the theological stuff, but obviously you don't set it up that way. It's just like a friend making thing. The guy also being an intellectual is probably going to put forth some of the reasons he left Protestantism, and him hearing it from somebody else is going to be much more helpful than having like his wife try to pre-sup him.
That are just very foreign in kind of the church that we're in now. So
what was the thing that kind of, or I guess like what is the biggest difference that drew you to more orthodoxy compared to like what our church is now? And like, I guess just like what that look like?
Yeah, it's a good question. Largely, I mean, it's a culmination of things, but I think when you get to, like I said, this is me voicing my opinion, so I'm not trying to debate, I'm not trying to state a fact. I'm not trying to make a crazy, strong truth claim here.
Every word of this is gold. Seen this play out in my parish many times. Few women will endure social awkwardness every week for God. It is what it is. Yeah, that's why you got to give them a softer place to land. That was something that made it so much more smooth for my wife, Christian Mario, who you guys probably know. We attended a parish with them for the first time. That was one of the first ones we went to. I went by myself first to a Vesper service, but when we went together, I went with Christian Mario and his fiance, and we got to hang out. And then what we did was afterwards we had like a lunch or whatever, and we were chatting, and she was able to talk about her journey into orthodoxy, and he was able to talk about his stuff. And after that, she was like, whoa, these are like normal people, And then she had a friend at the church, and we got to hang out with them, and we would hang out at coffee hour, So the racism in the chat is crazy. What is Corey Mahler's guys still spurging out in the chat, dude? Are they still doing it?
But I mean, for me, I think the Orthodox Church and the way the early church fathers, the Eastern Christians, thought about the church make a lot more sense because they start from the bottom up rather than the top down. So they don't start from reading scriptures and saying Ephesians 2:8-9, like it says we're saved by faith alone. So let's go back and like make everything else make sense within that framework. But rather they start from Christology, who is Christ. What is the church? What is our doctrine of God? What is our doctrine of the Trinity? And how does everything else fit within that? Because if you're building a Jenga tower, you don't start from the top. You don't open a Lego book and to build a Lego and you go to the very end. because then you're going to run into some issues. You might use pieces in the wrong place.
He's pre-supping her right now. he's like pre-supping her right now.
And I'm not saying that that's a perfect analogy, but largely it feels much more coherent in like theologically. And then also through the services, there's essentially, I think there is grace in attending the divine liturgy in the services. And also basically I was talking to somebody about this last night. For me personally, it feels like it handles intellect through the theology. It fulfills the scriptures, and it's beautiful. It's experiential. It's scriptural. It's logical. Those three things seem to be pretty well met within the church. So
I guess like specifically what drew you?
I got to remember that too. Like from my perspective, there was a guy that came to our church every week. We get like new visitors or whatever, inquirers and this kind of thing. And every coffee hour for the last like couple of months, I'll have somebody a new guy come up to me and be like, I know you from the show. I know you from, the internet or whatever. I'm like, yeah, that's me. And I'll talk to them or whatever. I got to remember to do the same thing in my discussions with people as well. Cause I was talking to this guy. He came up to me with his wife as well. And I'm like, yeah, once you start to see like, real presence in the Eucharist is accepted everywhere in the first millennium. Once you start to see the continuity, apostolic succession, all this stuff. And I could just see it's on their face getting like overwhelmed. I'm like, oh, I just need to be like, hey, welcome. and not be dumb. I just need to be like, hey, thanks for watching the show. I appreciate it. Like, welcome to the church. Like, I'm trying to dive into theology. It's just like, oh, Cleve, you're an idiot. Like, they're just like trying to grab like a piece of toast or something,
Or what is drawing you more? Because, and also just to clarify too, like, so Jack is not a baptized Orthodox. He is interested in it. He's drawn to it. Like, he feels that. But I want to clarify one thing we've discussed very openly is, let's say I wanted to become Catholic and I felt convictions in that area. I would not baptize myself into that church unless we were both on the same page.
Chad Nerg spurging out. So true. That's how I feel. That's how I feel. Like, my wife was telling me, she's like, when these guys recognize you at the church, you just have to say, hey, thanks for watching the show. I'm like, oh, like, let me write that down.
And so that's something we had talked about. And Jack was like, hey, I'll not become baptized Orthodox unless we were both on the same page, because we're very like convicted in the area. We don't want us to go to different churches. Obviously, like
that's the right play. You don't want to go to different churches. That's absolutely correct.
Not aligned in some of these things. We are aligned in the main things that matter. We both love God. We both have a faith. And we both are seeking to grow that faith. How we're doing that is just different. That's basically to the root of this. But I just wanted to clarify that because I didn't want that to be something that's confusing to you guys. One thing I was going to say too is we both have been to Orthodox churches together a few times. Actually, we went for like it wasn't Easter. It was like their Palm. It was Palm Sunday.
Yeah. My issue is I do the theology spurg on dating apps. Nice. What is the epistemic basis? What is your justification for knowing that I'm handsome? What is your epistemic justification for thinking I'm a cutie pie? Oh, you like me? How is that epistemically justified? That seems subjective to me. That seems based off of your own subjective opinion. What is your epistemology? Tell me right now. What denomination are you?
Judaism. Palm Sunday is what I meant to say. But we went for that together. We went to a few other parishes. But like I said, Jack just kind of felt more drawn in that area. So what I was going to say is I agree with the holy aspect. I've even actually told Jack, like, I feel like there are areas that our church lacks that. But at the same time, so our church also, I feel like, has the same things of like experiential, spiritual. Like, there are aspects of that. They just look different. So what like specifically is the biggest drawer? Like, I know we've talked about like the thing, and this is one thing that we've kind of butt heads on, is I have a hard time with the Orthodox faith. I don't even like saying the Orthodox faith because it's all faith, but like the Orthodox denomination or church believes they are the true church. And I have a hard time with hearing that. And even like the idea of,
hey, we got Father Ron in the chat. Good to see you. Let's get some W's in the chat for Father Ron.
that, because my belief when it comes to what God says about church is that he left us, church being within us, like it was, like we are the body of believers, like those who basically have a faith, those that are actively following him, seek to know him. And he even says, where two or three gather together in my name, I'm there among them. And I mention that verse a lot when I say that, just because it's the first one that comes to mind. So I've said that several times to Jack whenever we discuss this. But yeah, that's just like one that I think about, because yeah, whenever it's hard for me to think about the idea that before Christ went up into heaven, he basically was like, all right, this is the organization that you guys must follow, and this is what church will look like, and this is church. I have a hard time with that. I also have.
I think that's a pretty common. I think that's a pretty common objection, and you have to actually have empathy with people who take that viewpoint, right? Yeah, you have to have empathy because, especially, I don't know, they're going to be on the show in like maybe 8 minutes. I'm going to talk to both of them. They're going to be up here on the stage, and I'll be asking them some questions and answering some stuff for them. Again, I'm not an authority. I'm not an authority on orthodoxy, but I can give them kind of from my perspective, what I've been through coming from a Protestant background, and maybe answer some of the more common claims here or objections. Because, I had to work through the same thing myself. But you have to have empathy on people who come from a non-denominational background, and they've never even conceived of this idea of maybe there being an institution that Christ has established, and maybe that could be found somewhere. That's like a presupposition that has to be broken, right? That's something that has to be kind of a thread that needs to be pulled. And then that journey begins, and you start to realize, wait a minute, the modern church that I'm attending, this idea of like an invisible church, this idea of there's no objective truth. This is a modern innovation. This is Protestantism. This is, even a step below, maybe this is like a radical Reformation type situation. So you have to have empathy when people answer that way. That's going to be a very common objection.
Haven't found that in scripture.
Dude, people in real life are not like the people you talk to online. Not everybody is a theology spurg like Cleve, okay? Not everybody's a Jay Dyer. Not everybody's, somebody who's been watching the online debates and these kinds of things. Most people you talk to in real life, they're going to be like, you just need to have faith. And it's me and my Bible, and also just a relationship. It's not about, you'll hear the mantra chanted several times in the evangelical circles. It's like, it is a relationship. It's not religion. It's just a relationship. And, look, growing up in that kind of background, because honestly, I've never said that in church, but that was said quite often. If that's hammered into your head, like every single Sunday, you have to realize this is actually the foundation that they're operating off of. So this is a pivot of the way that they view this entire framework
to back up that claim. And so for me, I have a hard time with that idea of when they claim it is the true church. And so, yeah, I do see the history.
Let me answer some of these super chats real quick. Woman, what drew you to orthodoxy? Guy, it's logically coherent and fulfilling for XYZ reason. Woman, no, but specifically, what drew you to orthodoxy? This is why we don't debate the wife. Well, to be fair, I think you got to realize, like I said earlier, the guy, I'm sure he's seen my show. I know he's seen my show in the back and forth discussions. So he's watching apologetics online. He's doing a bunch of research. And then once he's fully convinced, that's when the discussion begins. So it's like 1,000 hours of research versus somebody that maybe, is going to church on a Sunday morning, maybe goes to women's Bible study or something. It's overwhelming. That's why you kind of have to have little thread pullers at the beginning. And that's kind of what I did with my wife, is pick one or two subjects if you're going to actually discuss theology, and you can't hammer it and corner them and expect them to change their position. Then you leave the question open-ended, and you kind of allow them to wrestle with it in their head. And you say, what do you think about this? And then allow them to answer, and you don't need to press too hard. And then you know what ended up happening? A week or so later, my wife came back and she was like, I was thinking about what you said. And it stuck with her. She's like, I was thinking about what you said. There does kind of seem to be some sort of issue. What do you think about this, though? Wouldn't this resolve it? And I'm like, well, I don't necessarily think so because of this. Okay. Another thing that I was thinking about was this. What do you think about that? And then that's the next kind of thread puller. I think that's the way that you need to view these types of discussions. Because if you're debate, I'm not changing the hypocrite guy's mind. That's not going to happen. It's two egos clashing against one another. If I'm debating someone, I'm having a confrontational discussion. I want to corner him I want to catch him. I want to catch him in his words. I want to get him to admit his actual position. I want him to give me some ground. I want to pin him down. That's blood sport debating. That's not winning the other person to the truth. What that's doing is that's for the sake of the audience. The audience can see the truth. The audience's ego is not involved in that conversation. So they can glean truth out of that discussion just fine. And that's beneficial for online platforms for that purpose. One good example of this, I had a discussion with my sister's then fiance. Okay, they were engaged at the time. And we ran through tag, and obviously both egos are in place. We get down to the point where, you run to the end of tag. It's basically like, how do you justify your knowledge of anything? I say, look, dude, how can you tell me that watermelon on the counter is real? Like, we could just be in a simulation. That could be a hologram. That could be a hallucination in the mind of a snail. It could be anything, and my sister, she's listening to this conversation, but I'm debating her fiance. Okay. He becomes convinced, and now she's a Christian. I mean, she was an atheist at the time. They both were. So that's one kind of live example of how the two in the discussion, the egos are involved, but the person listening, theirs isn't, so they can actually absorb the information. No, I wouldn't say that. She's questioning, and she's willing to come on and discuss. So give her flowers where it's due. She's willing to come on and discuss, on the show live with people. Lauren Bailey, good to see you. My first phone call before meeting in person with my boyfriend was about the Filioque. Didn't know he was Roman Catholic. Next day, he told me Orthodoxy was right. So based in BF pilled. He figured out the truth. He said, dude, we got to become Orthodox. This Roman Catholicism stuff is not it. That's true. Roman Catholicism is not it, dude. On the race salvation, St. Matthew the Apostle grew a tree to Alaman the Savage. On OCA website, 11th paragraph. Glory to God. God is able. Very true, very base. Thank you for the super chat. We have to have empathy on pagans, on atheists, on everyone. That's a given. Yes, pray for these people. Even pray for the, first off, pray for this couple here, but pray for the Hypocrite guy too. The LP dude or whatever his name is. I don't know his actual name. People just calling him LP. Is that what you call him? LP? I wonder what she thinks about. Good grief. Is the one true church thing is hard. It would help to consider that there was and still is only one Israel, one people of God. Very true. Very true. All right, let's watch this for a second. I'm going to step away, use the restroom, come right back.
In it. So I don't know if there was a question that I lost in there, but like, how would you respond? Also, if I keep looking around or anything, I'm A, making sure this is still recording, because that would suck. Because Jack has jujitsu right after this, and B, the coffee's hitting, so I'm getting kind of all over the place. But anyways, continue, Jack.
Yeah, I would say one thing that, to me has felt, just to expand upon the last point of like, what do you feel like is any different? Like, is it any different, or is it just the same thing, but with some bells and swells? And I would say, a key point that was missing for me is the doctrine of theosis. So this idea, and St. Athanasius puts it very elegantly in his book on the Incarnation, which is amazing. He says that Christ became man so that we could become gods. And if you hear that and you read that in a Protestant lens, you're like, what is he talking about? This is so unbiblical and horrible. But it fulfills the promise that Christ makes to us in the Gospels. He says that ye be made perfect as my Father in heaven is perfect. And so largely it's this idea that we could never become gods by nature, but we can become gods by grace, by partaking in the divine life, by, as Paul says, running the race with endurance. He even says that he buffets his body so that he may not be disqualified.
Look, I had to step away for a second, but I heard this guy was a jiu-jitsu guy. So based. W jiu-jitsu. Dude, we love jiu-jitsu in here. So based.
Qualified. He says that, we should be going from one state of glory to another. All of these things kind of lead you to understand that the gospel is more cosmic than just, we say we believe in Jesus, and so he saves us from hell, and then we spend the rest of our lives like happily ever after.
Oh, dude, he made the mistake. He's like, dude, you just don't understand. You just don't understand.
The Christian life is more demanding in the best way, that we can over time attain holiness and virtue.
Oh, dude, I've been exposed. Bibi Netanyahu, beam me out of here. Bibi, my cover is blown. Bibi.
And that will aid us in the next life. And so I think that's something too that was really missing for me in realizing, like, well, what do I do now that I received the gospel? And some people might say, rest.
So true. So true. Dude, I'm gonna freaking heel hook you, dude. It's over. It's over. All heel hooks, all wrist locks. You guys want to be jiu-jitsu champions? Look, I'm going to show you. Real quick. Watch. Sensei cleave, okay? All you got to do is trap the elbow. Trap the elbow. Trap the elbow right here. If you trap the elbow and you bend the wrist, that's called a wrist lock. You can break the wrist right here. You just trap the elbow. They can't escape. You break the wrist right there. Super easy. Super simple move. White belts, go out there and really annoy your coach your first day of jiu-jitsu.
Or just accept it and like you don't need to do anything else. And I don't think that's in the scriptures. And it's been a culmination of things reading the church fathers and understanding the Orthodox perspective, where once I see it, it's very hard to unsee it. It's kind of like I mentioned to some friends last night. It's like once you let the cat out of the bag, it's like I think this can go back in the bag in terms of the way I view the scriptures and what Paul's saying, what Peter's saying. Peter.
That's not a wrist lock. How dare you question my authority, boy? How dare you question my authority, boy? That is a wrist lock, dude. That's a gooseneck wrist lock. There's two. So one like this, one like this. So you can bend it down here or you can bend it back here. This one will actually like blow out your forearm.
It also says in I believe it's 2 Peter.
What it's doing is it's stretching out your tendons here. If you give it a twist, that'll actually hurt someone. So don't do that when you're rolling, just straight down. If you're like, out in the open though, like a little twist to it.
Chapter 3 says that we are to be partakers of the divine nature. So that's like a direct.
What's up? We got the legend here. I heard you do jiu-jitsu. That's what we're talking about. Oh, you're muted.
Hey, what's
there?
going
You
on?
go. What's up, man?
Not much. Me and the wife, we're here.
Hey, welcome to the show. We were watching your interview for a second. I was spurging out because you said you did jiu-jitsu.
Oh yeah. Do you train or no?
Yeah. I'm one stripe away from a purple belt.
Oh, nice. I just got my purple belt.
Nice. I was telling everybody, I said, look, before you even go, your first day, all you got to do is like learn the wrist lock and really annoy your coach. Just go in there and start bending people's wrists day one. But welcome to the show. I appreciate you taking some time to come on and just yap. This will be awesome. So you both kind of want to do like a brief introduction, just let everybody know who you are, your podcast, and kind of where you're at in your walk right now.
Yeah. Do you want me to go first?
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, my name's Jack. I'm 24 years old. I won't give like a crazy synopsis, but I'm a Christian, kind of like an Orthodox inquirer, I guess. It's funny. I actually got a copy of On the Incarnation from a friend of mine I train with at jiu-jitsu. So
nice.
That was a funny connection. Yeah, and mainly the podcast is like mostly my wife's, but we do some episodes together.
Dude, many such stories. The jiu-jitsu to orthodoxy pipeline is real. It's funny what I did jiu-jitsu a little while ago, and I'm in a very Greek area. One of my buddies is a Greek dude named Stamo, and we would roll, but we would debate theology because I was a non-denominational pastor before I was joining into the Orthodox Church. So I was like, no, icon veneration is cringe. It's not real. He's like, no, it's based. It's awesome. We'd roll or whatever. And I remember one time he had a competition and he was like, look, if I take first place in this competition, icon veneration is real, dude. I'm like, all right, we'll take the bet. And he won. I'm like, oh, it's over. This is why I became Orthodox. I just revealed. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you had to rehash Nicaea too, but on the mat. So
yeah, nice. Sorry, go ahead. I interrupted, but
no, that's pretty much it for me. I mean, that's kind of my whole spiel, I guess. I found some of your stuff and like obviously a lot of like Jay, Father Stephen, all of them. After being like, what's all this stuff with Athanasius? Like, who is this guy?
Sure.
And then kind of just been like patiently reading, inquiring, for the past like year and some change. But
nice.
Yeah.
So how about you? What's your background? Your name is Kylie?
Yes, my name is Kylie. And yeah, so Being Real is a podcast. I started it. I first ever started it probably a year and a half ago. I actually did the first episode on like a really cheap microphone my dad got me because I told him I wanted to do a podcast. And the first episode, my roommate walks in and she ends up joining in on the podcast. Like, I love this. It's just a super natural like conversation. This is kind of how life is.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of continued to brew what I wanted it to look like, of just kind of inviting people into real conversations, and just what it looks like to kind of wrestle with real things on the daily, but also get to experience good things on the daily. Kind of just open up the floor to what isn't always talked about at face value. So that's been really fun to get to step into. And I actually, I kind of was trying to like push Jack to do an episode with me, because at first he was like, no, I don't know if I want to do an episode. And I think the first one that we did was like do opposites attract. And after that he was like, it wasn't too bad. And then after we did the orthodox one, he was like, actually I really like being on it. And so we've been just kind of talking about like, how can we like bring you on it more? And yeah, just kind of, I've been throwing topics at him and just kind of left the floor open because he likes being on it too. So, but yeah, that's the podcast. And then as far as me, a little bit I talked about, so I grew up in the church, and a lot of those were like non-denominational. I had gone I barely remember it. I remember bits and pieces, but I'd gone to a Catholic church very briefly when I was really young.
Okay.
That was, I think, my like first ever church experience. And then I went to a non-denominational church, primarily growing up. And then, yeah, the one that we're at now is non-denominational. So, yeah.
Yeah, let me give your podcast a little shout out real quick. This guy's saying, everybody go mass like the podcast. Here's where you can find it right here. This is Being Real Podcast right now. They've only got 300 subscribers. Look, we've got like 900 we got like just about 900 people watching right now. If everybody goes and subscribes, they'd be at like 1,000. So go do the thing. Subscribe real quick. Okay. This is where you can find them. BeingReal.podcast. Make sure to say thanks for coming on. This is awesome. I'm glad to have you. First off, I want to say, I appreciate you coming on to have the discussion. You know, I like the podcast setup. That's pretty cool. With like, mine's like kind of like very basic. Like this was a painting that was already in the room. I just put like a little light beam. You guys have like the wood looked like soundproof board and stuff. You put a lot of effort into it. That's a cool look.
It's legit. Yeah.
Here, show them the lights.
Yeah, we have like these lights that kind of go around the wall, if you can kind of see that. So it makes a nice little ambient lighting, I guess. But the only thing that's missing is like some iconography in the back, you know, or something.
Yeah, there you go. Now you're talking. Do you do jujitsu as well, Kylie?
I do not do jujitsu. He's been trying to get me to come. No,
yeah, not yet.
I told him, I said, for a date idea, I'll come do jujitsu, but either you have to train me or we have to make sure other girls are there, because that's the biggest thing. I'm like, I don't want to show up and I'm the only girl and some dude's like, hey, you want to train? I'm like, no, that's where I'm not doing it. But yeah, I primarily run. So I ran in college for 4 years, ran in high school. And so like, since running at a collegiate level, it's kind of like ingrained in me. It's like his form of jujitsu, where it's like, that's where I like to, you know, get all my stress out and just push myself to the mat. Physically. So I'm a distance runner. I ran my first marathon this past fall, and then by the grace of God, I worked really hard and I was able to qualify for the Boston Marathon. So I'll be training for that pretty soon in the next few months. So
nice. That'll be cool. All right, a couple podcast ideas for you then. All right. My wife's first time at jiu-jitsu. You get a couple B-roll clips.
Yeah.
Right? You know, the thumbnail is just like you, like
yeah.
Like a headlock or something. Or she's headlocking you. That would be funny. And like you know, husband's first Boston Marathon, you're like dying at the end or something.
Yeah, man. I don't know if I'm really for all the marathon stuff. I got like 6 minutes. Jiu-jitsu is like 6 minute round and then you're done. So
you got it. The more tired you get, the better the podcast will be.
I get him to do the turkey trot every year, though. That I can get him to do that. Yeah. That's about it.
He'd run a couple miles. That's about it. So
nice. Well, I think y'all will find some interesting topics to discuss. But I appreciate you both coming on. So, you said you had like a non-denominational background. That's kind of my background too. You know, I was I grew up in the Churches of Christ very briefly. Then my parents started going to a non-denom church, I think around when I was like 7 or 8 years old. And then, you know, we've kind of been a non-denom since then. And I haven't really denomination hopped or anything like that. I was a non-denominational pastor. I was an associate pastor at a church called Revival Church. You know, it was kind of smaller, maybe like 200 or so every Sunday or something. So like medium-sized church. But that's kind of my background. I became convinced of orthodoxy. Also another pertinent point, I would do a lot of online debates. I would actually debate like Roman Catholics. I would debate Orthodox, debate Muslims, debate atheists. This was kind of my background. So it was a little bit of a shock when I told people, look, I'm interested in journeying into Orthodoxy. People were like, whoa, weren't you like the Protestant debate guy? Like, what's going on here? So I had to have my foundation shaken up a bit. And to be completely honest, I don't think any particular debate, like one-on-one, really changed my mind. It was more me going back and evaluating my worldview and kind of picking apart like the basis of it. But I know you probably have a lot of questions. But if you don't mind, let me just ask a couple just to start off, just so I can kind of know where you're at. Have you ever been to like a divine liturgy before at all?
Yeah, so actually it's kind of funny. Whenever we had kind of started this whole thing,
She started it. She brought me to my first liturgy.
So my when I at the college team that I ran at, one of my teammates is she's Greek Orthodox. She grew up that way. Her family's Greek, so there's a cultural, but also she's very like into her faith. And so I had asked her questions, and I was just like, tell me more, like, what is this? Because I never heard of it ever. I think Jack you had looked into like the church fathers here and there, but it wasn't, you were super like, yes, like this is super awesome, this is super cool. You were just like, yeah, like I really love reading these books. It's super interesting. You should read them. And then I had told him, I was like, hey, like my teammate, she's Greek Orthodox. I know you were telling me a little bit about these books you were reading. And so we were just kind of talking from there. So I had told him about it, and then I had started looking into it. I was like, oh my gosh, like I kind of saw a lot of like history in it, and I fell in love with it. And we actually have a copy of like, I know like the Book of Enoch isn't like a core thing in Orthodox theology, at least from whenever I was researching it. But I know it's like part of like the traditional like church thing whenever I was looking into it. And so I was super deep into where did the church start? How did we get here? And so I had mentioned to Jack, I'm like, hey, we should go to church with her sometime. And he's like, I'd love to. And I was like, okay. And then like for a while, nothing happened. And then he was like, hey, we should go to church with her. And I was like, no. And then like we finally both went to a divine liturgy. She actually brought us an hour later because she was new. We all didn't really
showed
know.
Up late, dude. We were way later than I thought. I was like, that was kind of short. And then it turns out we showed up like in the middle of the homily. So it was like,
you know what, to be completely real though, like when you're first going, that's probably better. You know, because if you show up and you're like coming from like a non-denominational background, you're like, I'm going to Orthros, I'm sitting here for 2.5 hours. You're like, oh, I'm overwhelmed. I'm like brain blasted. I would actually recommend show up like, you know, an hour to the end just to start, like, or just attend divine liturgy and go. I would say don't be like super rigid and try to be like, oh, I'm going to Orthros and I'm like ortho maxing. I'm doing like 3-hour services or something. Because then that'll definitely overwhelm you. What was your like experience even there? So you said you showed up, it was like kind of towards the end. What was that like for y'all?
So it was in the middle of like, they were doing like the worship. Is that like liturgy? That was a liturgy.
Well, we walked in, he was giving the homily, and then from what I understand, like we probably had another like 20 or 30 minutes, and then they had, you know, like administering the Eucharist. And then, yeah, that's a funny comment. Being late to the liturgy, definitely on track. Yeah, I noticed that. I went to one other one, like a full one on my own one time at a Rocor parish, and I saw so many people just like, it was more a bigger parish, and people were just showing up late, like walking in whenever. But yeah, and then we stayed after for like the whole, I don't know what you really call it, but like the meal after, and we talked to a bunch of people. I thought overall it was a really great experience. I mean, we even met some other couples there who were like not that much older than us. Similar stories, you know, they came from either like higher Protestant or even just like non-denominational backgrounds. But that was like like a year and a half ago. Like that was a long time
Yeah,
ago.
I think that same day we were just about to be married. And so we went to go cake tasting like that same day. And I remember talking about it, like what we thought about it. We came in super open-minded. I remember we talked before, like, hey, we're not going in and we're going to make a crazy decision right away. Like we're going to go in very open-minded and just kind of see how the Spirit leads us. And then just talk about it later. And so that's kind of what we did. And then it was interesting, like after that, we're in like a youth ministry with our church. We both lead small groups for your 7th grade boys. I'm 6th grade girls. And so we had like their fun little weekend retreat. And it was interesting because, again, like I was the one who's like super drawn to it. And I was like, hey, we should look into this. And then whenever that weekend retreat came, I'd actually told him, hey, I'm not really feeling like the Spirit lead me towards this direction as much anymore. And Jack had said, like, I feel the opposite because of these reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, like going from, like an Orthodox church, everything's very ornate. The hymns are beautiful, incense, vestments, all this stuff. And then imagine like a week later, there was a lot. I mean, it was a kids event, but like there was like full on, like super loud, like guitar worship and smoke, like fog machines and all this stuff. I was like kind of shell shocked for sure, going from those two polar extremes. But I mean, for me since then, like in the time I've taken to try and acquire and really read, it's not as much about like, I don't want to make the assertion like in the podcast, I think, of an hour is such a short amount of time. It's not as much about like the bells and swells. Like that's all aesthetic and it's amazing, but it's more about the coherency of doctrine, the normative authority. Okay, stuff has to make sense. You have to have, your conscience is bound on a lot of very important things. And I think that's important, like that's the big thing for me. That's like, I don't know how I could not, want to.
I mean, I certainly resonate with what you're saying there, Jack, because once you see the coherency of the system, it becomes clear to us. But I understand completely what you're saying, Kylie, because when you enter into an Orthodox church, it's completely different. It's a whole different world than a non-denominational church context. And coming from somebody that's like has a pastoral background and, we're doing the sermons, we're doing the worship, you start to realize, and I can only speak about, because I've never attended your church, obviously. I can only speak about my church and going to, we used to go to a bigger church context. There was a place called Generations. It was very large, not quite a mega church, but much bigger than the one that we planted. The one we planted is like 200, like on Sundays. This one was like, I mean, you might be able to call it a mega church. It's like 500 on Sundays, which is pretty big. So, but you realize like having the background of running pastoral ministry and doing pastoral ministry, you realize certain things. The entire service is catered around making the person that visit have an experience that is positive, having an experience that they can later take away from that and say, God spoke to me in this way. And it even boils down to the way that we do sermons. So for instance, I'll preach from like James 1 or something. And it's like, count it all joy when you face hardships of many kinds, for, persevering will, bring you closer to perfection, or something along these lines. And I'll preach on this and I'll say, so you out there, if you're struggling with something today, offer it up before the throne of God and know that your suffering is not wasted. You can offer this up, and this is a beautiful thing, and this will grow you, and this will lead you closer, and this will do this and this. And it's just vague enough that the person out there is saying like, dang, I really am going through something tough today. God is speaking to me through this sermon. When in actuality, it's just vague enough that this could be applicable to literally anyone. The structure of the church service in an evangelical context, let's say non-denominational context, it's facing the audience. It's me speaking to an audience. It's all revolved around, one, the worship service where you're watching them worship. They're facing you. The pastor is facing you. They're speaking to you. They want you to have an experience. They want you to glean something from the sermon as if God is speaking to you directly through the sermon. Psychologically, the entire service is revolved around the person that's attending. In the Orthodox Church, it's the complete opposite. It's 180. So it's rather than being tailored around having an experience for the individual, which is the goal of the pastor, by the way. They have entire like seminars and things, trainings like this. In my seminary training, this is what they teach you. They say, look, each person that comes in, there's a certain percentage of a chance that they're going to leave if you don't get their attention right at the beginning of your sermon. You've got less than a minute to get their attention. And if they can't remember one key theme in your sermon, they're not coming back. They're gone. So this is all tailored around grabbing somebody's attention, getting them to remember something, and leaving them with the impression that they've gotten some conversation from God, right? Now, I'm not saying they're doing this out of bad faith. I'm saying this is what everybody's taught, and this is what I was taught in seminary. This is what my senior pastor taught me as well. Even the worship service, notice the way that they are formulated, they have big sweeping rises and things like this, and you'll start to feel like I'm feeling like a rising in my chest. And for me, this feeling, I'm associating this with closeness with God. And the issue when we start to associate this like rising feeling with like a closeness with God, and we go to an Orthodox church, it's like the exact opposite. So it's shell shocking. It takes some time to get used to, but the orientation of the Orthodox worship service is completely different. Everybody's facing the iconostasis. Who's the priest facing? He's facing the altar. He's facing Christ. He's facing the Eucharist, which is Christ's body and blood. So it's everybody's eyes instead of on the person. All of our eyes are on Christ. All of our eyes are on the saints that are worshiping with us. All of our eyes are on the iconostasis. And there's no point in the service in which it's trying to like sell you something or maybe get you like a rise emotional. You might have more like a, energetic like preacher or something, but the objective is the exact opposite. We go there to offer something to God. It's like an offering of our attention, our mind, our focus, our thoughts. Even if you're going to like a roll prayer, I'm sure you went to like a Greek church, right? They had like pews probably.
It was Russian.
No, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what
it was like,
diocese it was, but
it was Russian.
Were you standing or sitting?
Yeah, we were standing the whole time. So, but yeah, to your point, like the liturgy, like, yeah, when he's in the, at the altar, like he's giving incense and stuff, and he's not looking at us. He's not saying anything to us. Like, and the homily is like what?
Exegeting the passage, right?
Yeah, it's like
reading.
Very the time that's taken to, like you said, to address the audience and or I don't want to say audience, but to address the congregation in Orthodox church is like very short. It's like pretty brief.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, hey, short homily, and then it's like back to it, so makes sense.
So I'm sorry I took so long speaking, but I say all of that to say I can empathize with your experience, Kylie, because it is completely, it's a whole different thing. And I remember when I first started going, I was like, I don't feel anything. I'm not going there like, oh, I had like this, like, aha, like, this is like, I'm Paul in the desert and like, I have a light like blinding me or something. It was more like, okay, I'm here to make a sacrifice. I remember going, the first one I attended with, do you know Christian Mario, Jack?
No.
So he's another Orthodox YouTuber, but he's kind of like local to me. And we attended with him for the first time as a Rokor church, Russian Orthodox. And we're standing up and I've got bad back problems. My back's like spasming. I'm like, do I really want to stand here this whole time? And I remember looking up at like this mural and it's like Christ being taken down from the cross. I'm like, okay, I can suffer a little bit for you. So that got me through. But
yeah, the standing's pretty killer sometimes. Like I think
you'd have good shoes for him.
Yeah. When I went to that Rokor parish, I think I got there a little bit early and I was like, man, this standing is gonna this is gonna get me by the end. So I'm like constantly shuffling to make sure my feet will start like cramping up and stuff. But yeah, I think you see
the moms holding babies.
Yeah. We see like a lot of moms like holding newborns and stuff, but I'm like, hey, this is like you know, forgive me, but this is based. Like, they got the kids in there too. They don't ship them off to some separate kids section, you know. It's like they're in the liturgy.
Well, dude, you got the wrong stats for it, man. You got the jiu-jitsu laying down sports. She's got the running sports. She's statted out better for it.
Yeah,
So
right.
that's the advantage.
And you show up with like the 4-inch thick like foam running shoes, right?
So true. You got to get some better foot support. But what else did you notice, Kylie? What were like some of the like reservations towards orthodoxy?
Well, I will say one thing, like I had told Jack when we had discussed, like after leaving it, I even admitted, because it was like, it's weird to say that like going to another church is humbling, but I did feel like I was humbled just because, like, kind of like you said, you don't leave and you're like, oh my gosh, like angels are singing to me like right now. It's kind of like you go and it is a little uncomfortable because it's different. So it was humbling to kind of admit like there were some aspects of that I did really like. And I remember saying like, hey, I did really like how like there was this aspect of holiness, and we both like agreed on that like even we noticed our church didn't have. And I was like, yeah, you see a lot of this traditional beauty. Like there's a lot of beauty in the tradition that like you don't see in our church. And it was interesting seeing the culture of fellowship there too. Like that's also different. Like there's fellowship at like our church too, but it's a little bit more of like, you know, you leave probably similar to yours and it's like this big open hall and everybody talks and, you know, they go to lunch after or whatever. And then I did feel like it was a little bit more intimate at the Orthodox parish that I really liked because they literally had people who would make homemade meals.
Right.
And would dish them out. And I was like, this is nice. I was like, this is really cool. I feel like getting a home cooked meal. My teammate, she was like, yeah, they have like Greek food and Russian food because this one's more of like Russian. It's a word like based, probably like Russian.
It was just
based.
funny. I mean, last time we went to Vespers like 3 weeks ago, and this Greek grandma was like trying to
So
peddle
cute.
her cookies on us. She's like,
Nice.
I need to build a new parish, so like send me a check and I'll send you all these cookies.
She
It
was
hilarious.
telling us that she was making cookies to fundraise for building a new building. I was like, hey, I love cookies. I was like, you'll get me there.
Yeah.
But no, I did really enjoy like some aspects of it in terms of like what I had reservation wise. I think it was just like hard for me to, obviously it's hard for anybody initially go to new church and be like, I can picture myself here. And that wasn't like the core reason. It was in my brain. My grandma is Catholic on that side. Like there's a lot of like Catholic influence in my family. And like I mentioned, that was like the first church experience I had. And so there were some aspects of growing up that I didn't have the best experience with traditional churches. Not saying anything against like the Catholic Church, but there were some aspects of growing up where I wasn't shown Christ in the most like full way that I could have been growing up around that. And so there were some areas of like when we were there that I wasn't feeling super close to God, because what I was thinking of is kind of how I was growing up of kind of more like the workspace mentality of like everybody's doing the same thing. And like I told Jack, one thing I had a hard time with was the communion. I was like, why can't we go take communion? I was like, you know, we're dedicated, like baptized followers of Christ. Why can't we go take communion? And Jack like knew, and Faith explained to us actually, no, you didn't know at that point. Faith explained, she was like, you have to be baptized Orthodox. And I think I had heard that in the Catholic Church. I know that's what they have as well. But I remember hearing that growing up, and that was something that I also had a hard time with, because I was like, wait, but I thought church was supposed to be this like open handed thing that like Christ left us. And he even offered it, like he offered communion openly. He never he never turned people away. And so that was something that I had a hard time with leaving, is I was like, you know, it was kind of sad we couldn't take communion. And I don't remember specifically if it was that specific visit. We had gone to an Orthodox parish, like maybe 3 times total. I don't remember if it was 3 times for a liturgy or if it was 3 times counting Vespers, but we had gone here and then back home for Easter, or like their Palm Sunday. It was our like Easter. and then we'd gone to Vespers. And so that's kind of like what our experience looked like. And since like our like wrestling has kind of like increased in the sense of he's getting more and more like infatuated with it. I don't want to say infatuated. That sounds wrong, but I mean just more and more drawn to it. And then
he's smelling the incense. He's starting.
He's lighting the candles.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's been like kind of a bubbling up thing. And I think like obviously like Pascha, like Easter does that, you know, because you're like, where is like non-denominational church? Where is our Pascha at? You know, like, that's one of those things where I think one thing that is so compelling, even though to me it's like difficult, like I don't want to do it, but to have that idea of like putting yourself through hardship to participate in the life of the church. And it's this completely flipping the Western ethos on its head, where it's like church is not like a one-stop shop Sunday. You get your stuff, you leave. Like you said, you get a good message, like a good, you know, something that resonates, but it's like, no, like you participate in the life of the church. Like you fast with the church, you pray with the church. You know, the liturgical calendar, like all that stuff, I think it's just like really beautiful, really. Like I don't know how else to frame it, but
yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things to address there, I think. Kylie, I think what you were saying about the communion is a very profound point, because that is something that is very jarring, especially if you come from a non-denominational background, because it's like anybody can just take the communion. Like even if somebody's like an atheist or something along these lines, any visitor, it's an open communion concept. If you look at what the scripture says, and I'm just gonna highlight a couple of things, just as little threads to pull, so you could do further research on this subject later. Because one thing that you said before I even dive into that, you said you have a Catholic background, and you're looking at the people, and you're saying like, look, maybe there's this like works aspect here where they're like, you know, maybe in the Catholic iteration, they're like meriting like grace or something. Like I have to do this so I get like a grace or something. That is kind of like the view in the Roman Catholic Church. We don't have that view at all. For us, it's like, it's more medicinal. We're cooperating with the Holy Spirit. Our entire view of salvation is not a merit-based thing. The Roman Catholics, it's like, I got to do ABC 1, 2, 3. Or like, if I do this bad thing, then I'm not saved. If I do this good thing, then I'm saved. Oh, I lost my salvation now. Oh, wait, no, now I'm good again. I've committed a mortal sin. Oh, wait, now I'm better. Like, we don't have that view at all. It's more medicinal. Theosis is just the process. Have you ever heard this term, theosis? So theosis is just the process of becoming more like Christ. So when we participate in the Eucharist rightly, and we come before Christ with the right disposition, we're in communion with the church, we're expressing a couple of things here. We're expressing unity with the church teaching. We're expressing unity with Christ's theanthropic body, which is the church. This is actually in the scripture, by the way. It says his body is his church. We're expressing unity with not only the teachings of the church, but with Christ. And we're saying, look, I'm coming with the correct disposition. And there are a lot of things that are entailed in this one thing. There's a reason why when Judas, who approached the Eucharist with a bad disposition, things didn't end up so well for him later on. We actually have several examples of this within the scripture itself. And this was actually super compelling for me. Like the whole Eucharistic question, talking about communion, this was a huge thing for me as a Protestant. I was like, whoa, once I started pulling this thread, my mind started to get blown, and I couldn't view it any other way. So I'm just going to take a look at this. This is 1 Corinthians. I don't want to read NIV. Where's let me get some King James going.
Yeah, bro, NIV's that's like the evangelical translation, right? Like didn't they change some stuff with that? Like they translate things and
yeah, they do change some stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so let's read King James. I'm too lazy to go look for a new King James. But let a man examine himself, and so let him eat of the bread and drink of that cup. For he that eateth and drinketh unworthily, so if they eat and drink unworthily, they eat and drink damnation to himself, not discerning the Lord's body. For this reason, many are weak and sickly among you, and many sleep. So what he's referring to, I'm not even sharing my screen. I'm so sorry. And many sleep. So again, it's talking about examining yourself before you partake in the Eucharist, because what you're doing is you're having an interaction with the living God. This is Christ's body and blood. if it was just like a memorial or something, why would those that partake of it in an unworthy manner become sick, become weary, and die in the Bible? If this was just like a symbol, like they're just eating like regular bread. This was something that I was like, I started to think about this, and I'm like, there's got to be something more to the communion thing. It can't just be like something that we're doing as like a reminder of Christ's death and resurrection. That's a part of it, but it's got to be something more. People are getting sick and dying, partaking of this in the Bible itself. So that's just one like thread I would say to pull on this question, because then it starts to answer some of the other questions like, wait a minute, maybe they're not keeping this from me because they want to be like exclusive. Like they're like, you're not in the club. Sorry. You can't partake of the communion because you're not in our cool kids club. Sorry. Nah. Like that's the point. It's because we don't want people to partake unworthily and eat and drink unto damnation. Right. Because we're thinking like the Old Testament. You remember in the Old Testament where they're entering into, like there were rules for the priest to enter into the tabernacle. And if they came in unclean, what happened to them?
Oh, is that a question for me?
Yeah, they died. They died. What if Moses were to look at the face of God? There's a reason he had to look at his backside. If he looked at the face of God, God said he was going to die.
Kill
right?
him.
So if you
I know these questions were asking to me.
sorry. No pop quiz. I'll have a dramatic pause and then I'll answer it.
Perfect.
Well, it's also like too. I was talking to one of my friends about this a while back. He's also goes to the same church, and I forgot how we got on like the order of worship and like the irreverent taking of the Eucharist. But there's also the example of like Nadab and Abihu.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, obviously it's a slightly different context because they weren't like partaking in the Passover or anything, but they just like get blipped out of existence. Like they just die because they're worshiping irreverently. So
yeah. Well, I think the concept that I'm trying to tie here is that when you come before the face of God, there's a correct and an incorrect way to do so, but especially in the context of the Eucharist, because this is God's presence. We see this prefigured all throughout the Old Testament. We see this in the New Testament. He says in John 6, he says, this is my body, this is my blood. If you eat my body and drink my blood, you have eternal life. If you don't, you have no life in you. So he's making a couple of promises here. And he says in John 6, very specifically, he says, this is my body, this is my blood. So if you're actually having an encounter with the living God, it makes sense based off of every other time somebody had an encounter with the living God and they had a wrong disposition. They were basically eating and drinking damnation. In the Old Testament, a lot of them either got sick or they died. In the New Testament, we see this with the Eucharist here. I mean, this is just one couple of verses here. 1 Corinthians 11, 28 through 30, they get sick and they die. So that's the real reason. It's not because they want to like keep you out of the club. It's for concern of your own well-being and salvation. And that's actually why, one of the reasons, and you can talk more to a priest about this, but that's actually why there is kind of a time period before you enter into the church, is to make sure that you are approaching the chalice with the right disposition. You understand the significance of it, and don't just think it's like, I don't know, let's say somebody like God forbid, let's say, like, step yourself into our shoes for a moment. And let's say, okay, the Eucharist, this is Christ, and I'm participating in Christ. Let's say somebody goes in there with the complete wrong disposition and they're like, this is just like bread and some wine I get. So they like put it in a little baggie and take it home, and they like toss Christ in the fridge and they forget about it and they just throw Christ in the trash. Like, whoa, like that has some pretty big implications if you put yourselves in our shoes. Or what if it was like somebody goes up and they don't have this year-long catechumenate. They don't have, or however long they do in your jurisdiction. They don't have this time period. You go up there and it's like, the guy's just like, it's just like bread and wine. He's like, oh, that tastes bad, and spits Christ out onto the floor. Lord forbid. Think about, there are certain reasons why there are certainly some precautions around, this participation. So I hope that kind of pulls some threads this would be a good area, I think, to kind of explore.
Yeah, we were actually talking about this the other night, and I was bringing, because I've been reading in Luke, and I was showing, I believe it's Luke 22. I was showing you, right? I think I was telling Jack, whenever I read, I honestly, like, I'll read the book, and I'm so focused on God's word that I'm not necessarily like seeing what chapter I'm on. So I'd be like, what did you read in? And I'm like, somewhere, I know it's in the middle of Luke.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I was reading in Luke, and it was talking about how, like, Christ says, take this in remembrance of me. And I was like, so Jack, here's a question. I was asking Jack this, and I was like, hey, like, Jack, here's a question. Why is it that if, like, the Orthodox belief is that you take this, and it is like my body and blood, then why are you smiling?
No, I was just gonna say it.
No, let me finish.
Go ahead.
But like, if that's the case, then why does it say here that, like, you take it in remembrance of me? And so, like, I kind of just went down and I was like looking at other parts of scripture, and then I think, did you bring in that John verse 2? Is that the same one that
I just said
in?
John 6, yeah.
Yeah, so he brought in that, and I was like, wait, but, like, you know, obviously, like, and truthfully, like, I mean, I know that in the Orthodox tradition, they do rely a lot on, like, tradition. And correct me if I'm wrong, like, I also do believe, like, there's areas where, like, even somebody who's Orthodox can interpret scripture in a, like, false way as well. And so, like, because of that, I was saying, like, maybe, like, there's an area where they see that as, like, it is like, they see it as, like, no, like, and I'm not saying, like, there's not a spiritual aspect to communion. I very highly believe that communion is spiritual. There is this spiritual, like, connection that comes between you and Christ when you take it. But in referring to only taking it when it's administered by, like, a priest, I was saying that, like, I see it as, obviously, like I mentioned in that same chunk of verse, Christ was saying, like, he would not withhold somebody from taking in his body and his blood. But he also said, take this in remembrance of me. And I was like, all right, well, why would he say, take this in remembrance of me here, but also say, like, this is my body and blood? And then I also, like, I know, like, in that one verse you were mentioning, like, you are among the weak and sickly. I even was, like, wondering too, like, wouldn't that be just people who are among you that could be, like, in, like, saying that they're in Christ, but they're really not. And so because they're taking communion falsely, like, they are weak and sickly. And so I see, like, the reason for the Orthodox way of administering, like, the Eucharist and communion, but I think I also have a hard time with it because, in a way, how I, like, have had a hard time with it is it almost feels like the Orthodox, like, tradition, or how, like, they view it, is they're almost determining salvation or withholding salvation. And that's kind of a harsh example, but I'd rather be blunt and honest about, like, where my thoughts are than just be like, oh yeah, like, I disagree here, blah blah blah.
I think that's such a good point that you make when you're following the train of thought. Like, what if somebody was, like, an atheist, like they're an undercover atheist, and they're taking the Eucharist, like, wrongly, and they're getting sick, and they're passing away? I would say explore that thought, because you could see the same concept in what we were discussing about maybe some of the reasons why you would want to be careful about the administration of the Eucharist. And I think if you were to study, I know we're talking about, or you're saying, like, we're relying on tradition for some things. I think in the context of the tradition, when we're discussing, especially early church history, the reason we would bring it up, especially in this context regarding the Eucharist, we'd bring up Ignatius because he's the direct disciple of the Apostle John. So Ignatius was taught by John the Apostle himself, the guy that wrote John 6. And Ignatius says very specifically, it is Christ's body and blood. He does offer restrictions on who receives the Eucharist. And he says, you know, where the bishop is, there the church is. Now, he learns these things from John the Apostle. And this was something that I had to wrestle with as a Protestant. Because, like I said, I used to do debates with, like, Roman Catholics and stuff. And I would say, like, oh, well, you know, maybe we can interpret this a little bit different. You kind of have to, like, go around the edges of this text. But this was something eventually I had to grapple with. I'm like, look, I would almost have to make, and I'm just critiquing myself here. I'm like, I would almost have to make the argument that the Apostle John was just like a bad, like he's just like a really dumb teacher. Like he just completely taught Ignatius wrong, like one generation after. That was almost the argument I kind of had to make to say like Ignatius was just way off base on what John meant in John 6. Because I don't know if you're familiar, but he actually does do some commentary on these verses. And when he discusses the Eucharist, he does describe it not really as like a spiritual thing, but he says in some mystical way, this is actually Christ's body and blood. And this is actually, he calls it the medicine of immortality, which is interesting because if you were to look at the Roman Catholic view of like merits, like I'm doing this to like earn something, it doesn't make sense. If you're to look at our view, our entire model of salvation is I've got something broken within me. I need to enter into the hospital. I have to receive the medicine of immortality. But for like the same reason that if I go and I take medicine in the wrong way, like let's say I don't know, I go in and I like take like a double dose of like chemo medicine or something, that's going to jack me up pretty bad. Or let's say I go in, a better example would be I go and I take this other medication. I go to the doctor and he's going to like say, okay, like this dude's taking this medication. If he takes this other med with this, that's going to kill him. Like he's going to die. They interact wrong. Okay. We approach the Eucharist. If we've taken this medicine, which is like sin, separation from the church, not approaching with a correct disposition, this is going to interact with this medicine wrong, right? We see this in the Old Testament. We actually see this in the New Testament. It says they approach the Eucharist with the wrong disposition. He that eats and drinks unworthily eats and drinks damnation to himself. So any good doctor, which is pretty much what the position of a priest is, he's administering the medicine, which is the Eucharist. Any good doctor is going to say to that person, like, look, dude, I know you just took this other pill. If I give you this medicine right now, it's going to kill you. Let's wait a little bit. Let's get this out of your system. And then we can talk about maybe getting you on a regimen of this. Just as like a helpful illustration, a thread to pull. Because our view is extremely medicinal. It's not so much like you're not in the club or we're like gatekeeping salvation. It's you're coming into the hospital. Like for the same reason, I wouldn't say like, okay, I'm going into the hospital. I've been drinking or something. Okay. And this medicine I take is like going to interact with alcohol in a very bad way. I'm not going to say like the doctor is like gatekeeping my healing by not giving me medicine that's going to kill me. You know what I mean? That's kind of the concept. Just to, I guess, make it. Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense. I think and again, this could just be the area where I'm like, because again, I told Jack this, and I asked the same thing of him. I said, while we wrestle with this, I will be open-handed in the sense that I'm willing to admit that I'm wrong. And I said, I'm going to ask you the exact same thing. And I know it's hard for both of us to do that. But as I say that, like, I'm willing to admit, like, hey, maybe how I view it is wrong. Maybe, like, the way I feel about it is wrong. And maybe it doesn't even matter about how I feel about it. But, yeah, I think it's just the idea that it almost just feels like the church is almost determining like not necessarily salvation, but also just like if like you're doing it wrong or right, just because being like a Christian, being confident in like my testimony and how like I found Christ, how I see him in my life working, and I've been able to see him bear fruit in my own life, and even like how he's brought us together has been really profound. And I think having that confidence of that, but also like, you know, learning about this church is also kind of humbling, but also scary, because it's like, man, are they saying something about my salvation? Like, basically, if I'm not in the church, does that mean that I'm not saved because I'm not taking the Eucharist? And also, does that mean that like because Christ also says there's one. I don't know if it's Christ, honestly, who says it, but somebody says.
Oh, Paul.
Paul says
one
it.
faith, one church, one baptism.
Exactly. So what I've explained to Jack, and we've gone back and forth too, is I don't want to say explained like I know everything, but we've talked, and from my perspective, I've explained that there was a true church, and it was before the Great Schism. I talked to my grandma, who's Catholic, and we were like, I was telling her about how, we've been wrestling with it, and she's really sweet. And so she was like, no, the Catholic Church is the first one. I actually backed up the Orthodox Church. I was like, hey, actually the Orthodox.
W's in the chat.
But the reason I said the Orthodox was the first because it's the original, but they were originally together. So the Orthodox Catholic Church, which the church fathers were all one church, and then the schism happened, and then boom, W.
W. Spam those W's. Get them in there. W.
So the schism happened, and the church that Christ left, he left us, split, and then from there, a bunch of million. I saw that.
No, I just saw that dude's username was not a Masadi.
Nice.
But anyways, from that great schism came a million other schisms. That's why there's Methodist, Lutheran, like Presbyterian, Pentecostal, non-denominational, like a million other denominations. The fact that we have denominations is a product of the schism. Just like I said, the schism is kind of similar to the fall. Just whenever Eve ate from the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, she opened the floodgates to other sin. And so similar to the schism, there's like this big old earthquake in the church. And what that did is it created room for other earthquakes to happen. And I got snake churches and all kinds of stuff.
We saw a video about like the Pentecostal snake church. And I was like, wow, this is insane. But I mean, they did use like one verse in Mark 9 to justify their handling.
Yeah.
So
let's be real. Why aren't you considering the true base snake church? Come on.
Yeah.
Actually,
they didn't get bit. No.
No, but what I was saying with that is like I do believe there was a true church. I just personally have a hard time believing that like the Orthodox Church as it is now is that exact same true church. Not because I lack faith that it is, but because I just don't believe, based on what I've read about it, what I've learned about it in different articles, that it doesn't necessarily align with how God said church was to be. And also like it aligns more with why there's so many schisms in the church now, because in my brain, I'm not saying this is how it is, in my brain, thinking about just thinking about the fact that like we have the Orthodox Church, if that's the true church, well then we have also a million other different churches and stuff. And the Catholic Church will tell you that they're the true church. And, you'll go down the street and, there will be another branch. They'll tell you they're the true church. And I'm like, okay, well, we're all going to say we're the true church here. So I'm like, we can have that in common. But to the point of, it's like, if we're all going to say we're the true church, then like, how do we fully even know? And you can say like history and date back to the church fathers, but the church fathers were also present in the Catholic Church. There were the oldest dated churches back like 2,000 years ago. So for me, I was like, well, the true church had to have been those two together, because the minute Catholic means united, and then Orthodox means original. And I was like, it would make more sense for the true church to be the united original church. So if the Catholic Church and the Orthodox were together, that makes sense. And from what you've shared, you learned, that's how the Catholic Church formed, is somebody didn't agree with wasn't that like someone didn't agree and then they broke apart?
They schismed, yeah. Long story short, I'm not an expert, but they schismed. Filioque.
Yeah, the first 1,000 years of the church is ruled by 5 patriarchates. One of those is the Patriarchate of Rome. They leave the other 4. Rome goes off and they do their own thing. The 4 remain together. That's the Orthodox Church today. The one that left is the Roman Catholics. So you're on track with the concept that their schism created more schisms. Like the Roman Catholics leaving, the Protestants come from the Roman Catholic branch, and then all of these other churches come out. What you see on this side, the Orthodox Church, is just a continuing continuity. And even in the worship style of the first 1,000 years of the church, there's continuity with that. But So I understand your hesitation with the concept of there still being a true church that could be found today, because there are so many. Like this seems like a daunting task from outside. You're like, okay, if I were to look at like the Roman Catholic Church, like how do I know that's not the true church, or the Orthodox Church, or the Orientals, or a Jim Bob Snake Church, or Pentecostal shaken crazy church, or like how do I know they're not the true? Like they say, like, hey, they could say this is like this is true. Well, the thing that I would examine here, and I'm just going to use scripture. So this is 1 Timothy 3:15, and this is just be another thread to pull. The purpose of this conversation is to give you guys some threads for further research, because I think that's the best way. Like if I just like in a conversation like this, if I'm just like, here, I'm just going to like feed you and give you like a million answers that you're not going to remember, then it'll be fruitless. But I think a better way to approach this is just to give you a concept that might encourage you to do a little bit of further searching on the subject. So this was something that I wrestled with for a while. 1 Timothy 3:15, and again, I don't know why every single resource starts with NIV, but let's go down to the King James. If I tarry long, thou mayst know how you ought to behave in the house of God, which is the church of the living God, the pillar and the ground of truth. So in the Protestant paradigm, in a non-denominational paradigm, if you have this concept of like, well, maybe there was one church, but now there's multiple and they all contradict. Okay, so let's say like Roman Catholics, they teach something different than the Pentecostals, right? A Pentecostal is going to teach something different than the Snake Dude. Snake Dude Church is going to teach something different than, the Orthodox. Orthodox is going to teach something different than a Lutheran church, so on and so forth. You get the point. How would it be true that they're all simultaneously the church as like an invisible concept, if according to God himself, the church of the living God is the pillar and ground of truth? A pillar and ground is something that upholds truth. And there is, even according to scripture, even according to Paul, there's one truth, right? Truth isn't subjective, and truth is actually a person. It's Christ. So if there's one truth, how could then all of these different random denominations who teach completely different things, and they all disagree with one another, how could they all be the church if the Bible itself says the church of the living God is the pillar and ground of truth? That would honestly, from my perspective, and this is something that I had to wrestle with, I'm like, dang, that kind of seems like that would make God a liar, because he's making a promise here. He's saying the church is going to be the ground and pillar of truth, but the truth doesn't contradict itself. So that's something I had to wrestle with, maybe a thread to pull, because to me, if there's one truth, and the truth is objective, not subjective, meaning it's not just like up to everybody's interpretation. Like some like Billy Bob couldn't just pick up the Bible and say like, well, you know what, it seems like there's three gods in the Bible, so I think there's three gods instead of the Trinity. Like there's three of them, they're walking around, or like, little Timmy's picking up the Bible and is like, you know what, I think they were all aliens. I think they was aliens. This is talking about Mars church is what's real, or whatever. Like, it's not just subjective based off of people's interpretation. God wrote this with a meaning in mind.
Okay.
And,
yeah.
Does
So
that
I'm
make
gonna go check on the dog real quick.
So,
Our dog just got spayed.
She literally just like she got home. You got home like 5:50 or something with her. And Koa, we just picked up she's like 10-month-old puppy. And I just heard her like walking around. So I'm just going to really quick go run and make sure that she's okay, but I'll be right back.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I would agree with that, of course. But the thing that was like a big tipping point for me, because I'm like, all of these people are saying fundamentally different stuff. Like even the funny example you brought up, like my brother-in-law is a oneness Pentecostal. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, they're all claiming that it's in scripture. So it's like, who has the true interpretation of scripture, and like, where is it normative? And, you really, all roads seem to point one direction. So,
yeah. Well, I think honestly, I'm really impressed with the questions that Kylie is asking, because she's getting on the right track. She's asking the absolute correct questions. My advice to you, Jack, you got to be very empathetic with where she's at in the walk. Be very patient and provide her with a very safe place to land if you guys end up making the decision to become Orthodox at some point. Resist any urge to be frustrated. These conversations sometimes can get difficult. I know sometimes with me and my wife, they got difficult, but the key is always to be patient, to be loving, to be the best husband that you can be. Do the small things very well. Don't, complain about, I know, I'm not going to sound very based when I say this, but guys, you'll have to cut me some slack. Do the small things well. If she's super stressed and you can help her out, take out the trash, go do it. The dishes, whatever. Just be the best husband that you can be, and show the fruits of those beliefs that you hold to, so that way she can see, at least reflecting in you, the light of Holy Orthodoxy. And that's something I say to everybody.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I mean, we have a friend, so at that Rocor parish, it's like through a friend of a friend, but he's become, a really important resource for me, but he's a priest. And he said the same thing.
Who's it?
Danny.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He said the same thing. He's like, just be the best husband you can be. Don't rush it. And to your point, like, I totally resonate with the fact of, like, it is a shock and a half. Like, it's like, and I mean, I've even seen people, discussing, like, hey, be a catechumen, take your time, like, don't rush into something like this, because it's not simple, and, like,
Sure.
It's not daisies on the other side, it is tough.
Right. Like we had even some friends of ours, and they were in a similar boat, but on the Catholic end of things. Like, the husband was wrestling with, like, wanting to become Catholic, and he was actually a preacher at our church and was supposed to go, like, plant a church down on the other side of the country. And yeah, I remember they were wrestling with it, and it was just, like, crazy, because he was on staff, and he had actually, like, taken the step of getting baptized, where his wife was still she was not on board with, like, becoming Catholic, so she's not baptized Catholic. And I told Jack, I'm like, and we both agreed. He said this to me before I told him this. He was like, I will not become Orthodox until we're both on the same page, because that is a big step and that's a big decision. And, like, that's something that, like, if I told him, the analogy is, it's like a tattoo, is you wait. My friend always said, you wait at least a year before you get a tattoo, because it's going to be on your body for the rest of your life. And I was like, well, if you wait at least a year to figure out a tattoo, like, we shouldn't rush figuring out what church we're going to go to, because this is something that is linked to something that is eternal. And
More important than a tattoo, for sure.
Oh, 100.
Yeah.
I use an analogy.
No, I know. I get it. It was a good analogy, but it's just funny.
It's a great analogy.
But yeah, this guy's like he's like Catholic Cleve, man. He was a teaching pastor at our church, and then he, like, converted, and now he's, like, writing all this stuff on Substack. And then I just found out that our church is launching a class on, like, why not to become Catholic, and I'm like, dang, we're, like, beefing.
It's called,
like a local beef.
It's called Why We're Not Catholic.
Yeah.
Take them down. They're going to do some jiu-jitsu,
dude.
dude. They're going to take the Catholic
Wow.
priest and put them in a headlock.
So God bless him.
No, that's not what the intention is.
Well,
You were taking this small piece of information I gave you and blowing it up. But then again, I do that to you too. So
Well, to be fair, on that class, they had a picture of the guy's head that, like, converted. They're throwing darts at it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, they're saying, look, this is actually symbolic. These are symbolic. No.
Yeah, the curriculum is just a folder of his Substack articles, and they're just working through
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what's interesting? When I was a non-denom pastor, I would teach apologetics courses, and I would, we would go through and we would do anti-Roman Catholic polemics. We do, like, the anti-Orthodox polemics, anti-Islam, Mormonism, and all these types of things. So this is becoming a more, like, common, I guess, practice in some of the non-denom churches. But hey, back to that point real quick. I would just say, make sure to, just kind of think about this. Truth is, because that's one of the sticking points, I think, that would really help open some doors. truth is objective. It's not subjective. There is actually one truth. God had a meaning behind what he wrote in the scripture. That would kind of, in my perspective, it would seem to go against the idea that there's like an invisible church with a bunch of organizations that completely disagree with one another. If God promised that his church is going to be the crown and pillar of truth. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I told Jack this idea too that I'd been kind of like just thinking on and even just praying through, because that's something I've been wanting to do, is like just pray through this. That's been a big aspect of us wrestling through just this season. And I say season because it's not going to be forever that we're going to be going back and forth about disagreeing about church. But essentially, like, I hold the perspective of seeing it. So Christ is the groom and his bride is the church. And so whenever in a marriage ceremony happens, whenever to get married, they become one. And so it's like, well, then Christ is in the church and he is like, they are one basically. And so the way I have the perspective of it is, well, if we have a spirit, and it's similar to that, like where whenever we have his spirit in us, then we have, like, it sounds weird to say we have church in us, but I look at it like that instead of like an invisible church type of thing where, you know, I can see Jack like physically and we can live out what church is. We can host people into our house. We can encourage them, spur them on. And I think discipleship is a big aspect of what church is about in the first place. And so I've held the perspective of like, well, if that's the case where marriage is about two becoming one, and that came from the idea that Christ is the groom to his bride, which is the church, then wouldn't that mean that like church is within us? So that's just like, you know, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's kind of where my perspective is. But that's something I definitely have been trying to learn more about, and we both have been, is just like, what is church? Like, to the grounds, to the bones, what is church? And how can we see what church is based on Christ being the foundation of it all? So that's kind of like that's probably one of the bigger pillars that we've been just trying to wrestle through to the core of what this whole like thing has been and looked like, is what is church. And that's what has been leading youth towards orthodoxy and me to kind of figure out, like, is orthodoxy really the true church, and is it really like something that I should like enter into? And I don't know, just it's been trying to figure that out, along with just like what's the line between me submitting as a wife and loving him well, but also holding strong to like certain areas that I am not feeling, and I don't want to say like feeling like it's about what I feel. Sure. But like certain areas that I have convictions in where, like I feel like that's important to hold still, is to have like convictions in certain areas. Because we use the example of if Jack was like wanting, and this isn't the same at all, but if he was wanting to randomly be Mormon one day, and he was like, this is it, I promise you, this is it, like shows me all these histories, all these readings, everything. And if I was just to be like, okay, let's be Mormon, then I wouldn't be loving him well as a wife. Just like if it was the other way around, I mean, that would be passive. You were following what I was telling us to do as a family. So yeah. I would hope that you wouldn't follow me in what decisions I would make. But it gets to the core of like, you can very easily, I think, get spun up and like, oh, I had this, like you said earlier, Cleve, this like crazy mystical experience where I felt this rising in my chest and I felt all these things. I felt a burning in my bosom at the Mormon temple, right? Or whatever. Yeah, that's what they say. Like, they're like, oh, I was reading Joseph Smith and just like they felt something or whatever. And like, there's various, I think, proofs to look at these things. And like, I think those types of experiences have to be a little bit lower tier.
Correct.
A lot of the times, like I think it's great that I know, like I watched, this was a long time ago, so forgive me if I botched the details, but I watched like your story of converting, and that has all of those things intermixed, including like invoking, the Theotokos intercession, and like having that experience, but also like you were having these ground truth debates, and you were like, man, I don't know what to make of all this stuff.
Yeah,
Because
it's the actual
or you need to conform to it,
Right. Yeah, it's the intellectual side. It's a pursuit of truth. But yeah, I don't think necessarily that an experience is going to be maybe as like convincing to people other than to yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I want to highlight this comment because I do agree. I think the questions that you're asking, Kylie, show that well, first off, you're thinking through these things very seriously. So it's good that you're taking all of this serious. But the questions you're asking, you're like right on the right track. Keep asking those questions. Those are the questions to ask. Like, what is the church? Because that's one of the biggest, that's the biggest disconnect between, especially maybe not so much like high church Protestantism, because like the Anglicans will be like, they'll give a different answer than maybe say like a Lutheran or a non-denom. But I would say continue to press that question, because if you're on the track of like your existing idea is, well, the church is within us because we have Christ. So we're the temple of the Holy Spirit because we have the Holy Spirit. That's true, right? Like we have the Holy Spirit. But is the ultimate meaning of the church the individual, or the church is just like within in its complete sense? I would examine that idea with what the teachings of Scripture is. If the church is the ground and pillar of truth and each individual is the church, then if the Bible is promising, like, look, it's going to uphold truth, how would it be upholding it if I don't know, let's say like Jack's the church, I'm the church. Okay. I say, John 6 means it's a symbol. John 6 means communion symbolic. And Jack, you say it's
the body and blood of Christ.
No, dude, it's symbolic. What are you doing, bro? We're going to debate right now. How does this uphold that principle and that promise of Christ that the church is going to be a ground and pillar of truth? This seems to suggest some mechanism of breaking that loggerhead there, because there's got to be some mechanism. Otherwise, it's subjective. It's not objective. It would be subjective. It'd mean it's all up to us, which is not necessarily the case. One other thing, and I'll say this because we'll wrap up in just a bit. I have one more segment to get to, but I appreciate you both so much for coming on. This has been awesome. Yeah, and just a reminder, by the way, for everybody watching, if you want to go follow their story here, this is the channel, beingreal.podcast. Go smash that subscribe button. I'm going to drop the link in the chat one more time. If you want to follow their story, you could do so at their podcast. We've got like 730 people watching right now. If you all subscribe, that's going to bring their numbers up by a lot. So go support them. I appreciate you both for coming on the show. I would say the next piece to this would be, did Christ establish an actual church? Okay, so did he establish a church? Who did he appoint as the authorities? And did they have successors? The answer to that all is yes. I mean, obviously from my perspective, but I'll give you just a couple little tiny bite-sized pieces to chew on. Acts 1, Judas has passed away. Okay, so Judas is no longer there. He was one of the apostles, right? What do they do with that position? They replace him. They ordain his successor. They ordain Matthias. So they draw the lots. They say, okay, Matthias, you're going to take the place that Judas had. My question for somebody that is operating off of this like framework where it's only Bible alone, let's take tradition completely out of the picture. Where in the Bible does it say that practice of replacing the apostles in their positions once they pass away? Oh, goodness gracious. What happened? Hold on. My camera went crazy. When did this stop? That would be my question. So just a thread to pull. You don't have to answer it, but I would say like do some research into this. When did the practice of, appointing replacements for the apostles stop? And did Christ actually establish a church? I think those would be some good threads to pull.
I agree. Right. No, that's awesome. I appreciate you taking the time to even listen to us and give us honest feedback and just suggestions and encouragement through it. Because, yeah, I mean, it's crazy because when we felt super alone when we first started wrestling through it. then we started talking about it and finding out, wow, we're actually not alone. Like, we're not the only people that have wrestled through it. And I remember like the first time we talked to somebody who like mentored us, and he's like, yeah, my daughter and her ex-fiance wrestled through this too. And I'm like, oh yeah, what happened? She's like, well, basically something about she wanted to be Orthodox and he didn't, and they broke up. And I was like, oh, that's encouraging.
Yeah, it's like perfect thing to say, right? But yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I think that's why too, because I mean, before, and this isn't a knock, but like before we put out that video of Orthodoxy, or the podcast is at like 2 subscribers, and like any video has like 30 views, and then Orthodox W got like what, 20K, 20 something thousand. So
Yeah.
because and I think also like that, and the fact that because I don't want to sound like a grifter, but like the issue is also very important. Like a lot of people I think are realizing and waking up, and they're like, oh man, like I'm accepting some presuppositions that are crazy. Like just when you abstract them, you're like, this is a lot, like you said, Cleve, to like work through. And on top of that, like one thing I found super, I don't want to say disingenuous, but kind of like it's just constant. I feel like I just get hit with it all the time. Is people are like, oh, well, that's a big trend right now. Like, it's so trendy for people to be Catholic or Orthodox right now. Like it always just, this is just that time of the decade or whatever when people become Catholic or Orthodox. And it's like, but if you really look at things and evaluate them soberly, like I don't know where you end up. And the reason, the reason I say, like, obviously Catholicism's gaining steam, but to me, it's like they just kind of over-explained everything and it kind of botched it. Like all the metaphysics they do and stuff. I'm like, I'm so much happier with it just being a mystery. That's it.
Well, dude, go watch any of the Catholic news streams that I do. It's a complete mess. You'd be dodging a bullet not going to the Roman Catholic Church. I do like 3-hour long news streams of just the news for the week. The Roman Catholic Church. I'll show you one. I'll just show. Hold on. While I still have you here, I'll torture you just a little bit. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, I saw the SSPX stuff, like them being excommunicated, but I'm not surprised.
Here you go. Hold on. So you want to be a based trad Roman Catholic. Here you go. Here's your based trad Roman Catholicism here. This is for the next one.
You might be wondering why should I be wearing or become a hot dog? About 3 exciting events coming up in the parish. Dear to my
It's got like doing the announcements dressed as a hot dog.
Dude.
That's insane.
That's so funny. I've got so many of these. It's so wild. Where's the is this oh, here you go.
Jesus Christ be with you all.
And with your spirit.
And now it's time for you to share that peace to one another. Peace, man.
Peace, bro.
Peace.
I love that. These are funny. I like the little like funny Catholic news clips. Here's one where they're like just like they're doing like a ooga booga mass. They literally got like the Aztec, like, dude, they got like the drink offering. It's crazy.
Well, that's not even, I think that's not even like, unfortunately, that uncommon. Because I've seen other like pagan rituals that they're doing just in the middle of,
oh my goodness,
Torno. But yeah, I saw like something you posted a while back that I was shocked by. It was like some Oriental Orthodox church, and they're doing like mega church worship. It's like, what's going on?
Yeah, it's no bueno. For those that are confused, Oriental Orthodox, they're not Orthodox. They're like one of the earliest schismatics. They're monophysites. So they're not Orthodox, but yeah, they got some crazy stuff. There's like a Coptic like mega church, cave church in Egypt where they're doing like deliverance ministry.
Oh, that too. Yeah, that was shocking. When you
he's like lifting the leg by magic. It's like a scam. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, you could go down that rabbit hole. It's interesting. But I appreciate both of your time. A good a follow-up podcast would be, I talked to the baldest Orthodox apologist. Here's our thoughts or whatever. Honestly,
You're not that bald. I've met some bald people. You're not that bald.
I'm hanging on. Look, I'm holding on till I get the Homer Simpson going. I got
There
2
you go.
strands and then I'm good. But what do y'all want to plug? What do you got coming up next on the show?
Well, I mean, same with the theme. It's called Being Real. So we'll probably do another follow-up about just kind of what we talked about, and we'll kind of just see where things go with it and where the Spirit leads our conversations, and do a topic about that. Or I don't know. We honestly don't have a ton of structure to it. It's still so new, and the biggest thing we don't want to lose in the podcast is just authenticity. So not saying you can lose that with the structure of having a podcast, but still trying to learn what it looks like. But definitely more episodes with you.
Yeah.
So.
And all I'll say is, like with, I saw a comment that was like, talk to a priest in due time. I hope that we are both willing and we can do that. So please understand, I'm not at all hesitant to do that. Like I want to do that, but it's something I want us to be ready to do together. Because I know that, you've talked about like kind of apprehensive at times, because it's that idea of like, oh, they're just gonna hook me in and like convince me on the spot. And it's like, hey, if the truth, if it is the truth, like it will do all the work.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, when me and my wife, we first went to go talk to my priest, he was very empathetic with her reservations. Some of her bigger reservations were like icon veneration and these types of things. And he's like, look, I want to be very clear. If you have things that you need to work through, let's set up like more meetings and we can talk, and y'all should, be able to pray and read through some of these things together. But I want to make sure that she's ready. And that really helped with my wife. So, I think, the priests have had to, they have the experience to know that this is a common thing. This is something that happens. Usually one of the spouses is convinced before the other. So there's always going to be one with some apprehensions. But I think if they're in that position, they certainly would be willing to be empathetic and listen to your concerns and, let them be heard and kind of walk through there, rather than being like, I'm going to pre-supper. I'm going to get her like,
it's like ortho
arguments.
I'm calling you.
Right.
Yeah,
well, I will say, because that is really encouraging to hear too, because I think that helps resolve some underlying fears I have with talking to a priest. So I appreciate like that encouragement. One of our friends is Greek Orthodox, not the same one with the church that we went to. She's actually getting married, and I have a bachelorette trip that I'm going to celebrate her this weekend. But she grew up Greek Orthodox. She's actually one I would be interested to do an episode with, because she's on the opposite end, where she was Greek Orthodox and then left. She grew up that way and then left and then became Protestant. And I was like, man, like, what was that like? But I told her mom is still Greek Orthodox, and it's really interesting. Her mom is, her dad is Catholic and her mom is Greek Orthodox, and it's very interesting. So I definitely want to speak to her mom, learn more about what it's like. Her whole family is Greek. So I think at some point we'll have my friend on the podcast, hear her story, because I think that would be interesting too, to hear on the flip end. Because I do feel like you see a lot of like from Protestant to Orthodox, but you also don't see a ton of the flip end. So it's like, I think it'd be good to, again, offer more voice to other people that are in that position as well. So
yeah. And then as soon as it's published, we'll do a reaction stream and epically debunk her arguments. It's going to be so based and epic. No, I'm just kidding. But also, I appreciate you both coming on the show. Again, you've got my email, so if you ever want to reach out and chat, feel free. Again, this is their podcast. Go check it out. Thanks so much for coming on, both of y'all.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the support.
Absolutely. All right, y'all have a good one. Talk to you later.
All right, see ya.
All right, so let's dive into our next and final segment here. So we've got I heard somebody was saying like what, SIIIG is live right now talking about us. Is that true? Joshua Tree, you say you skipped my chat. I don't think I did. I think I addressed it pretty pretty briefly. If it's something I need to address again, send it to me in the chat and I'll pull it up. I couldn't convince my ex to go to an Orthodox church, so I good grief. Oh, that's not edifying to this discussion. Cleve, you're not pre-supping her enough. JK. Oh, yeah, I should run tag, I think. Rachel Wilson, good to see you with the $50 super chat. I say this with love, but women especially need to be careful about being led by the Spirit. Almost always, this means following your own emotions. The Holy Spirit's the third person of the Trinity, not your inner emotional state. That's an interesting thing to keep in mind. I do think in the non-denominational world, it is often tailored towards a personal experience. And maybe sometimes, I don't want to sound like insidious, but sometimes manufacturing a personal experience in some cases. You guys are great. Thanks for coming on. Kylie, does it help to consider in the OT the people of God were one body, aka the true church in that time, into which we're now grafted the same way? Certainly something that she should think about. I think, sometimes in these discussions, you guys got to realize this stuff isn't all going to get resolved in one conversation. This is why you give them like threads to pull so that they can examine a principle. And this was something that was super helpful with my wife. I gave her a couple of threads to pull and she came back later with some really good questions, which actually helped continue and encourage the discussion. Rachel! Yes, Rachel was here. I would also like to add, if you love and trust your husband and his leadership enough to marry him and give him children, trust his leadership in the spiritual life. You have to model this for your children so they do the same. Very true. Very true. I find it often difficult to deal with Protestant ignorance on Christian orthodoxy because it's often willful and prideful. Often they think they're better than historical facts. I don't think that's the case with our guest. I've seen that sometimes with apologists, maybe like a Kelly Powers situation, or say Mahler TC or whatever. Bring up the good grief, I can't speak. Levitical remembrance offerings, i.e. the context of the statement. Yeah. Another analogy could be having a full stomach before going under anesthesia. Without first purifying yourself by fasting, you're liable to hack it up and choke. Good point. Still haven't gotten your thoughts on Jordan Riley and what do you mean? Your content is informative. Jordan Riley and what do you mean? Who's Jordan Riley? I know the what do you meme dude. He makes like reaction video stuff. I really don't have too much of an opinion on him. I think he's like some kind of Protestant dude. My thoughts are kind of neutral, the same as like any Protestant news channel. I don't know who Jordan Riley is. You can also think of the church and your priest as your coach. After all, this is a race of salvation. And even if you're running it, you don't want to injure yourself without help. Very true. That's a good point. That would have been a good analogy to bring up with her as a runner. Mars Church. Yeah, they got that in Warhammer 40K. So true. So true. If you lived in the first, second, and third centuries, would the church look more like your current church or the Orthodox Church? That's a good point to bring up for sure. The continuity question. I didn't want to toss too much at her, though, live in the video, because if you bombard them and overload with info, it does just, I think at a certain point, you start to hit up against the wall. I think that's why it's better to ask things for them to go and research themselves, little thread pullers that kind of open the door to further conversation. Tell them to read St. Cyril of Jerusalem's Catechesis. Interesting. God bless from Greece. Well, thank you so much for the blessings in the super chat. Praying for you two, beautiful couple. God loves you. Very true. Very true. Don't know anything and have a podcast. Oh, goodness. Don't be so negative. Come on, y'all. Don't be so negative. Come on, y'all. All right, well, let's get some. Make sure you pray. Make sure you pray for these two. I appreciate them coming on the show and being willing to have a conversation that shows at least, some level of openness to challenging their beliefs, that kind of thing. I do want to just look up, what are they talking about? SIIIG video. No, they're just doing a 2nd century icon thing. Yeah, I don't care about that. All right, so we'll talk about the SIIG stuff. His wife was a sweetheart and he's a good guy. May their marriage be blessed. So true. True. All right, let's dive into the SIIIG stuff. So I was going to leave this alone. I'll give you a little bit of background context. So we were discussing this the last couple of podcasts or whatever, and we brought up a couple of things. I discussed this in the last stream. I'll go ahead and pull this up and we'll look at the clip. So this is Ananda. This is Veritas. This guy's Conrad. This is SIIIG. So they're all out here at Speaker's Corner, and they're doing debates against Muslims. All right, so you can see here, this is towards the beginning of the video. After he steps away for a brief moment, Ananda makes a very shocking claim.
This produces a conviction. Either Jesus is not God.
I mean, but it's important. We're trying to get on the main problem about the logical problem you have with the Trinity.
No, it's very important because your concept, because you are a monarchist Trinitarians and not the usual Catholic or Protestant kind.
That's not a real thing. That's a Dyer thing. That's not a thing the rest of us do.
Yeah, we're just Trinitarians. We're just a.
There's only one true God, and the rest are by predication.
Yeah, exactly.
This we believe.
Yeah.
For us, we believe this is an innovate, a bid'ah of the Dyerites, of Joe Branson. We don't accept.
So he says, Ananda says this is a bid'ah, this is an innovation of the Dyerites. Dr. Bo Branson invented monarchical Trinitarianism. So this is a very odd and wild claim to be made by Ananda. Now, to be fair to SIIIG, he stepped away for a brief moment when he made this comment. And I actually had a phone call with Jerome last night, and we were discussing this subject. Now, when I spoke to Jerome, what Jerome said is, Ananda's off his rocker, that why would you deny monarchical Trinitarianism? So Jerome, SIIIG, he doesn't agree with this particular statement by Ananda. I want to get that out there very clear. Just he was out here with their group doing debates with Muslims, which first off, I mean, my question is, why are you associating with so many Latinizers? Well, that's very obvious in my opinion. But on this particular issue, he emphatically said he disagrees with Ananda, and that's a wild statement to make. All right, I want to clear that up. That is what he said. But let's get to the other statements and subjects here. I was actually just gonna kind of move on from this subject, but I got some more information today that I wanted to share with y'all. This was something else that we had covered here. This is SIIIG defending Miko. So this is from their Discord. They've got a Discord called the Community or whatever. Miko is a mod in their Discord. He's one of the most pernicious Latinizers on the platform. If you have kids, please shoo them away for the next 2 minutes of this podcast because it's going to get a little adult. But basically, SIIG's defending a furry Latinizer as his Discord mod. And look at what he says about this.
Miko, there is no evidence that suggests that Miko has ever masturbated to this kind of stuff. The question therefore remains, is posting pictures of sort of like humanoid.
So again, Miko's literally retweeting furry adult media artists. Okay, this is all censored here, but he's retweeting this artist here. They literally are just doing like adult furry content. This is the kind of stuff this guy is consuming and retweeting openly on his X page. Now, listen to what SIIIG says. He asks a question about, is being a furry a sin? Is posting pictures of humanoid animals a sin? Listen to his response.
Of sort of like humanoid animals a sin. It's not a sin. At the moment,
he says it's not a sin. Posting humanoid animals is not a sin. That's what he's diluting this all down to. Is like, it's just a humanoid animal. What does it matter? Yada, 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 yada. So this was one thing that we highlighted before. Now, to be fair to him, he was trying to make the argument that the guy's not gooning this stuff. This is very obvious the dude is doing this.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
I mean, this, I think, says more about discernment, but also that's a wild statement to say that it's not a sin to be associated with this subculture. To be fair, though, his exact words, I want to be very precise, because in my conversation with him yesterday, which was very unhelpful, was a complete waste of time, in my opinion. He just kept quibbling over words and while maintaining PSA, like quibbling over very specific terms and words and trying to hyper qualify things until they literally mean nothing. That's kind of the mode of operation here. So I want to be very precise in what I'm saying. Okay. Anyway, this was another one. So he admits that he taught Miko Latinizer theology. Let's take a look at this. and we'll look at some of Miko's claims here.
Oh, thanks. I've seen all these arguments from Miko against others and the other way around on PSA. I don't follow all of it closely, but would you say Miko agrees with you on PSA, or is he close to a Protestant understanding? Miko agrees with me specifically on PSA. So
Miko agrees with me specifically on PSA. So Miko agrees with Jerome on PSA. That's a very specific way to word this here. He agrees with me, not that I agree with him. He agrees with my teaching of PSA. Now, what does Miko think about PSA?
if you look at his content, he will.
Father's wrath against humanity satisfied in the Son. We don't disagree with the Protestants, meaning we agree with the Protestants on penal substitution. This is Miko's word.
Post things that basically just agree with me. I'm just a bit more good-natured.
I'm a bit more good-natured when I talk about PSA. Now, in our conversation, which I'm not going to talk too much about, but he does the same thing that he says publicly. So I'm not, I feel comfortable sharing this because he says this publicly all the time. He says there's two ways to approach a subject. It's either an academic approach or it's a pastoral approach. A pastoral approach, you might word things a little more nuanced if you're speaking to somebody who will be scandalized by this information. The academic approach is where you're more blunt. For instance, his discussion with Perry Robinson, he's taking a more blunt approach where he's outright defending PSA against Perry Robinson, saying the Orthodox Church doesn't teach PSA. Mind you, Perry Robinson is literally a catechist in the Orthodox Church. He's responsible for teaching the neophytes. He's responsible for teaching these catechumens, rather, not neophytes, catechumens, and bringing them up to speed. So, I mean, I don't know if I would trust this guy over somebody who's literally entrusted to teach the Orthodox faith. But anyway, so he's defending PSA against Perry or whatever. He says, look, I'm just nicer when I talk about PSA. I'm not as abrasive as Miko. Miko will literally go around and say that like Orthodox bishops are like apostates because they don't hold to a Calvinist iteration of PSA. It's absolutely insane.
When it comes to like, well,
Miko says Christ can be said to be damned and that he takes on the punishment due to the damned. He also talks about original sin, says man naturally inherits the punishments Adam received for his personal sin. Okay. So it's a personal imputed guilt that he's holding to.
Try to be a bit more good-natured when it comes to demonstrating what the Orthodox Church believes on it. Oh,
yeah. These guys called my priest antichrist. Yeah. The Latinizers are terrible, dude. They're like one of the most pernicious movements out there. They cause so many issues for people. So anyway, long story short, these were the ones that we were discussing last time. So we've got, Jerome basically teaching Latinizer theology. Miko agrees with Jerome's Latinizer theology, so on and so forth. So we get this kind of admission that, hey, yeah, actually, I do believe in PSA. Miko agrees with me on PSA, so on and so forth. So this has been the context of what we've been discussing so far, which Orthodox Shahada discussed in their post here. Okay, let me pull this up real quick. So they discuss this in their post here. They say this. Stay away from SIIIG. This is an announcement warning the Orthodox community at large to stay away from the content of a well-known Latinizer within the Orthodox sphere named SIIG. For some of the problems with SIIG, go check out Cleve's stream. You can go check that's 2 streams ago. We come with all the receipts. Latinizers are people within the Orthodox sphere of influence who promote incorrect theology rooted in Roman Catholicism and or Protestantism, like penal substitutionary atonement, PSA, inherited guilt, purgatory. Yes, some people are teaching purgatory. This was what's his face? That Mar Ruckus dude is like reposting Roman Catholic defenses of purgatory on X and all this other kind of stuff. It's crazy. It's crazy. Created grace, etc. Let it be clear that this channel, Orthodox Shahada, disassociates itself completely from SIIG and his content, so on and so forth. He promotes theology that contradicts orthodoxy. So this was a statement that he made yesterday. Shares this little snippet. Okay. After my discussion with Jerome over the phone yesterday, I was thinking about just leaving it alone. The conversation in and of itself was very unproductive. I mean, I didn't necessarily buy what he was trying to sell me. He was basically saying, look, like you have to demonstrate that it's wrong that I believe this. and that I believe this in a very hyper specific and qualified and nuanced way. And PSA is like a range of beliefs, so on and so forth. So we could talk about this pastorally or academically, so on and so forth. And I'm saying, dude, I'm not going to talk to you about whether or not it's bad that you're teaching PSA. You're teaching PSA in original sin and all of these other contexts. I mean, literally like an imputed guilt iteration of this. Miko says he agrees with your theology, and he is out here saying that he doesn't have any disagreement with the Protestant iteration of PSA. So I'm telling him, I'm like, look, if you want to argue this isn't a bad thing, that's a completely other discussion than what we're talking about on our show, which is that you're teaching this. And this is quite literally, by every metric, this goes in opposition to the Orthodox Church. Talk to any priest, talk to any bishop. Every single priest or bishop I've ever spoken to is saying, look, these Latinizers, they're a danger. They're a dangerous movement. We do not teach PSA. Go and attend any catechism in any Orthodox church. They're not going to say, yeah, we believe like the Calvinists do. We teach PSA. Anyway, long story short. So I was going to leave it alone after this because I was like, dude, this conversation is just getting redundant. I don't have too much more to discuss on the subject. I just want people to be aware that this is what he's teaching. I'm not out to get the guy or ruin his life or whatever. I just want people to buyer beware. This guy is a Latinizer. It seems like he's trying to hide his beliefs. This is what he said openly. Okay. This is the point. He's funneling people into a Discord, and they're learning this type of theology in this Discord where Miko's a mod, Mar Ruckus, the other Latinizer's a mod, the Oob guy who's a Latinizer's a mod. He's associating with Ananda as recently as like 2 weeks ago. If anything, this shows you, look, the guy's saying like, look, I'm not a danger. I'm not a danger. Meanwhile, associating with like every known Latinizer known to man. It kind of tells me you're full of it, dude. This is actually what you're teaching. So I was going to leave it alone, but there was an update today that I wanted to share with y'all. And this honestly is the most shocking thing I've ever listened to. Hear the audio for yourself. SIIIG defending homosexual relationships. This is from an X space. Orthodox Shahada shares this. He tags Jay, me, and Alex. Hear the audio for yourself. SIIIG defending homosexual relationships. I didn't believe it. I thought this was fake until I actually listened to it. And I have the audio file. I'm going to play it for you here. It's from an X space that he hosted. It's called Orthodox Morning Room, Marriage and Homosexuality. Okay. So we're going to take a listen to this, and I want you to hear the argument. So I want to be very clear. He's not arguing for the sexual aspect. He's arguing for a monogamous relationship between two same-sex people living together, but not necessarily having sex. Okay. Again, if you have children in the room, please dismiss them at this time. This is going to get a little more graphic. Okay. But this is the discussion that he had on X. This was the post here. This was his X space. All right. We'll take a listen to it. Again, it was titled Orthodox Morning Room, Marriage and Homosexuality. He changed the title of this space on X to something else. I think he changed it to Atonement or something. But let's take a listen to it and hear what he argues for.
A certain point where you sort of don't really want to have sex anymore. You're sort of done. You know, you don't want to have intercourse anymore. You're sort of done with that whole sort of thing. You just sort of like each other's company romantically. That's possible. And as a matter of fact, many people in the early church wanted to aim for that kind of perfect marriage because they sort of saw that with Mary and Joseph. In that Mary and Joseph had a purely romantic relationship with each other that was sort of agapeic rather than erotic, right? They didn't have an erotic love towards each other. And that was permitted by the church. And so rightly, people within the LGBTQIA plus community may ask, okay, well, if that relationship is acceptable, why isn't this other homosexual relationship, this homo-romantic relationship acceptable?
Okay, just so you can have context to what you're hearing here, this is what he's saying. He said, Joseph and Mary, they were betrothed. They lived a chaste life together. So a homosexual might say, rightly, he uses the word rightly. This is a correct question to ask, he's saying. What's the big deal about us living together if we wanted to? Me and, two dudes shacking up, two gay guys shacking up. If they want to live together, what's the big deal then? As long as they're not doing butt stuff, this should be fine. He's saying they're asking this question rightly. Let me go back so you can hear that one more time.
Okay, well, if that relationship...
Hold on, let's see.
And that was permitted by the church. And so rightly, people within the LGBTQIA plus community...
Rightly, people within the LGBTQA whatever plus community might ask,
okay, well, if that relationship is acceptable, why isn't this other homosexual relationship, this homo-romantic relationship acceptable? Now, notice I'm not arguing for homosexual acts, because of course the church has been clear as to why those acts cannot be promoted by the body of Christ, right? But those same people then conflate those arguments that the church has definitively made on the subject with
the audio does kind of break up a little
then
bit.
Talking about the extension of those relationships that actually technically are dissimilar. They don't...
Okay, so notice what he says here. He says the same people, they will take this argument against the sexual act, and they will then conflate that with something that's completely different in his view, he says. Something that's completely different, which is two dudes living together in a romantic relationship, but they're not doing butt stuff. That's the argument. So he's saying this is completely different. When you're arguing from the scripture, when you're arguing from the church authority on this thing that's condemned, which is sodomy, okay, you can't use the same argument for sodomy. You're conflating these things with this other thing that's not necessarily sinful from his view, which is two dudes living together in a romantic relationship is apparently not sinful. Now listen to him elaborate on this.
Don't actually have anything to do with one another. Sure, it's possible that you could same sex and romantically involved. That's true. But at the same time, you could also have someone that's purely sexually attracted and not romantically involved.
Just know this is legal wrangling and loophole seeking. That is not the spirit of orthodoxy. That is how the entire conversation I had with him over the phone was. It was just looking for the loophole, looking for terminology that he could, slip in.
And again, you could also have someone that's purely romantically involved, but not sexually attracted. Those three categories are possible because it's a Venn diagram. There's an intersection between the two that we have to be cognizant of. And we have to be brave as Orthodox Christians to say, what has the church actually not permitted? What has the church actually prohibited? And what does the church see as subrogatory action?
So he's now going to argue here, pay attention. He's now going to argue that homosexual romantic relationships are not actually sinful. They're subrogatory, meaning it's kind of weird, but we don't necessarily condemn it. So to be clear, this is what he's arguing. He's arguing that homosexual or homo-romantic relationships, a homo-romantic relationship isn't actually sinful. It's just like a weird thing. The same thing that he argued about being a furry, by the way, if you watch the entire discussion where he's defending Miko, he says this is a subrogatory action. It's just a weird thing. It's not sinful.
So, and this is a very controversial thing in moral theology, subrogatory actions are actions that are distasteful and not approved, or rather disapproved of, but aren't prohibited. A good example is smoking. So smoking is not promoted by the church. It is.
So homo-romantic relationships, two dudes living together in a romantic relationship is just like smoking a cigarette. It's not a sin. It's just kind of like, why are you doing it? That's not true, dude.
Permissible, right? It is permissible, but it is not promoted or encouraged. If anything, it's discouraged by the church, but it's not prohibited. The nature of the moral action isn't prohibited. And that's the same way that potentially some theologians in the modern day, especially in America, want to view certain homoromantic relationships, which is why I don't think the term homosexual relationships actually encapsulates what the church is permitting. Like when you see people, gay couples, whatever, being allowed to sort of run rampant in the Orthodox Church.
So I don't know what church he goes to. He's saying like gay couples are running rampant in his church. What church do you go to where there's a bunch of gay dudes running around? I haven't seen that anywhere. What do you mean? There's just like, you're going to like gay dude parish? What is going on at your parish, bro? I don't think that's actually happening. But if that is the case, bro, like what is going on in your parish, dude?
We're thinking, hold on, is the church promoting, homosexual relationships? Well, no, because we fail to make the distinction necessary.
I almost wish this was true just so someone could tell Andrew, because nothing would get him to stop smoking faster than it was if it was the same as gay stuff. Yeah, if you're smoking cigarettes, the same thing as being gay, dude. If you're smoking cigarettes, you're basically just being gay. Imagine this. You're literally, you're sucking on a stick. That's all you're doing. Good grief. That's the ultimate argument against smoking cigarettes.
Between a homosexual relationship and a homoromantic one. Now, is the church even promoting homoromantic relationships? Well, I beg to differ. No. Because ultimately, we want to mirror, even on a romantic level, the relationships that we are able to produce on a sexual level. Right?
So he's saying it's looked down on, but what he's denying is that it's a sin. So he's saying it's not necessarily sinful. It's just kind of like a weird thing. It doesn't meet like the ultimate goal, which should be like you're living with a woman, but it's not necessarily sinful if two dudes want to shack up in a romantic relationship and they're running around the church like just hunky-dory fine. Like it's kind of weird. It's not the best thing. But you can't say it's sinful, because really the only thing that's sinful is if they're actually doing butt stuff. But if they're living together and they're like, I'm staying away from that booty, well, then it's fine. No big deal. They're just doing a little smoochy poo, or I don't know, cuddling. What are they doing?
We want to raise good households with the equality of the genders, with the equality of the sexes. And the only way that we can really guarantee
No, I'm going to torture you, dude.
that is if we have the opposite genders in the household at the same time.
Smoking is homo-romantic.
Are there any sort of questions in chat? Let me see. Because I know that what I'm talking about is weird. I know. To be clear, and I don't...
All right, so I believe the rest of this was like him like waiting for questions or something, and he just changes it to like atonement or whatever. So the important part here, we go back. This is what he's discussing. So he basically says, too long didn't read, homosexual relationships are sinful. He says the church condemns homosexual relationships, but he brings in this new category. So this is what he's doing. He's bringing in like this loophole category. He's like, but a homo-romantic relationship is not necessarily fine. It's something that's kind of looked down upon, but isn't necessarily sinful. So you're fine with the church if you do this, similar to smoking cigarettes. So two gay dudes living together, they're cuddling, maybe they're doing just a little smooching, but they don't do the booty stuff. Look, they ain't booty warriors, okay? These dudes are fine. Well, it's just a little weird. It's a little weird that when I go over to their house, they've got like the rainbow flag and they're smooching on the couch. They got the popcorn going, that kind of thing. That's fine. But if they start doing booty stuff, then we're off the corn's off the cob, dude. So that's basically the argument. And what's wild is the example that he gives at the beginning is like Mary and Joseph. Did you catch that? He's like, this is justified because Mary and Joseph were chaste.
You know, like you get to a certain point where you sort of don't really want to have sex anymore. You're sort of done. You know, you don't want to have intercourse anymore. You sort of
Oh, that's right. He does attack Perry at the end.
done with that whole sort of thing. You just sort of like each other's company romantically. That's possible.
Mom knocks on the door. What are you boys doing in there? Nothing, Mom. Just being homo romantic. Such good grief.
And as a matter of fact, many people in the early church wanted to aim for that kind of perfect marriage because they sort of saw that with Mary and Joseph.
They saw that with Mary and Joseph, so it's all good because Mary and Joseph were chaste. Good grief, bro. All right, let's look at the end of this. So he says something about Perry. Thank you for reminding me.
Good idea. What's up? Yeah, that's not that I need to be very. Well, I see now that people are taking my words a bit with some more stock, so I want to make sure that I preserve these words for the betterment of everyone involved. So I want to go through this because I usually dictate my own language rather than speak. He wrote a lot of things, but I'll respond to them in kind. Contemporary academic theology is all over the place and is not an orthodox discipline.
Oh, did it cut out?
Academic of sorts or whatever.
Okay. It was back a little bit further where he's talking about Perry.
Made by a 1 minute. But what I'm going to do is there was a recent tweet that has been made by a one Mr. Perry Robinson.
So now he's gonna start talking smack about Perry Robinson. So listen here, because the context of this, by the way, I'll pull up. I think I have the tweet saved. Perry and him are kind of going back and forth on PSA a bit. That's the context of that tweet there. Let me see if I can find it real quick. So hold on. Anyway, I'll just tell you what it's about. Him and Perry go back and forth on PSA. Perry says the Orthodox Church doesn't teach PSA. Jerome is doing the opposite, so he's kind of trying to debunk Perry's arguments against it.
And Perry has been, I would like to say, sort of biting our ankles for a bit now.
Jesus, Perry Robinson's an ankle biter. Good grief.
Essentially trying to play as though he's an academic of sorts or whatever. And I appreciate his contributions. Good idea, what's up?
Y'all hear me? We good.
So basically, I think that's all he said about Perry. He said he's like an ankle biter pretending to be an academic. So the rest of, I think he changes it to like the atonement, and he does like a lecture on the atonement. Alex, you missed SIIIG saying being a homo romantic is okay, but being homosexual is what's bad. So as long as it's two dudes that are like in love, two dudes in that sweet homo love, they're sitting there and they're living together. It's Bob and Steve. They look into each other's eyes. They even have the little spaghetti noodle. Oh, oops. We're both sucking on the same spaghetti noodle. Mwah! They give a little smooch. This is perfectly fine. This is perfectly fine, according to SIIIG. But the moment they start touching booty, it's over. That's sinful, boy. You went too far. You were a little too tempted by that spaghetti kiss, boy. Now you're going straight to hell. That's what you missed, pretty much. So now he's talking crap about Perry Robinson, saying he's like a fake academic or something.
I can talk about this all day. But what I'm going to do is, there was a recent tweet that has been made by a one Mr. Perry Robinson. And Perry has been, I would like to say, sort of biting our ankles for a bit now. Essentially trying to play as though he's an academic of sorts or whatever. And I appreciate his contributions. What's up?
Anyway, that's it. That's it. I'm done. All right. So I wanted to bring this up just to highlight, look, dude, I didn't believe this was real. I mean, Alex, you can verify, when I was talking to you earlier, I said, look, I don't know. Cause somebody said, I think SIIIG did like a talk on like supporting like gay stuff or whatever. Okay. And I was like, I don't know if that's real. I said that to you in our messages, Alex. But after I saw this posted today by Orthodox Shahada, which you can find the original file here if you want to download it and read it yourself. It was in a mega file. Hear the audio for yourself, SIIIG defending homo relationships. After I listened to this, dude, I'm like, oh my goodness. I have to talk about it. He's defending this stuff publicly. And the problem with this is the guy purports himself to be a teacher, and he's funneling people into the Discord server where this is the type of stuff, this is the guidance that he's giving young men. So no wonder so many people in the Latinizer movement are furries, are, gay or whatever else. They're saying like, look, it's not necessarily sinful. This is just like kind of frowned upon, kind of like smoking cigarettes. So you can keep being a furry and be Orthodox, no big deal, because it's kind of like just smoking cigarettes. Oh, you can keep being in your homo relationship. That's fine, because it's kind of like smoking cigarettes. Like, this is the teaching that's being pushed. It's just absolutely wild, bro. So it's no surprise when you got dudes like this. What's his name here? The Miko guy. It's no surprise when you get dudes like this and their behavior is being defended. No wonder they are the way they are, because this is who's teaching them.
Miko, there is no evidence that suggests that Miko has ever masturbated to this kind of stuff. The question therefore remains, is posting pictures of sort of like humanoid animals a sin? It's not a sin. At the moment, it's a reaction.
All right. Anyway, I'm kind of done talking about this now. I just wanted to share that with you. So buyer beware. Buyer beware. Be careful who you're listening to on the internet, dude. I just want to point out, these are the things that are being said. You can come up to your own conclusion. I would hope and pray. I would hope and pray that you have some level of discernment, that you're not a complete mouth breather, that you're able to have some level of discernment and figure some of this stuff out. But I want to present all this information for you so that you can make an educated decision as to whether or not you want to listen to people like this on your theology, or you want to listen to your priest, your bishop, and literally everyone else in the Orthodox Church. I'm just saying. You want to follow these sectarians that are arguing homo-romantic relationships. You want to follow these people that are pushing PSA. You want to follow these people that are pushing furry stuff, or at least saying it's not necessarily sinful. You want to follow these guys? Well, I don't know. I can't help you too much. Have a little discernment. That's really the message. And obviously, pray for each of these dudes. Look, I had a conversation with the guy. I had a call. So it's not like I'm just saying things that I wouldn't say to him directly. These are all things I said to him in this conversation. Granted, the homo-romantic stuff is new. So it's not like I'm just talking about somebody behind their back, but they're teaching this stuff publicly. It can be addressed publicly, and should be, because it impacts people, especially at a time in which we have so many inquirers. We have so many catechumens. We have so many people flooding into the church that are questioning very basic things. They get funneled into these Latinizer subversive Discord servers, and this is what ends up happening. So anyway, Doug, I liked one of Homegirl's podcast episodes with her hubby, and now my shorts are swarmed with evangelical stuff. You are cursed. Now you have to watch 5 billion years of evangelical slop. I know it is late, but please treat the Eucharist with respect. I was an idiot and took it as an angry evangelical, and it's only by the grace of God that I wasn't destroyed. It's the most convicted I've ever been. So true. Excellent. Beautiful, beautiful testimony. When a 10-year-old pastor is more base than sick, good grief. Yeah, that pastor, that kid, you say he's a Christian, but you're gay. That's so funny. Ironically, this sort of legalistic bean counting loophole seeking is actually the spirit of Roman Catholicism and scholasticism. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, there is a reason they are called Latinizers. Would you make the same argument for siblings? Ooh, that's like a good Andrew Wilson level meta question to ask. Would you make the same argument for siblings? That's a good meta level question. About to have a homo-romantic relationship with my Funko Pops. Yuck. Is SIIIG what you get when you mix the Dunning-Kruger effect with narcissism? I don't know, bro. Just pray for the guy, man. Pray for him and anybody that's under his influence. This is rough. Can you give your opinion on what do you mean? I did earlier. I don't really have one. The guy's just like an evangelical dude, but he just reacts to news. I don't know what there is really to have like an opinion on. The chat, Orthodox grossed out by gay furry vibes versus the soy Latinizer, million formal and virtual category distinctions about the essence of furryism. So true. So true. So true, King. SIIIG was just on with Justin at Transfigure Life a few weeks ago. Not sure Justin knows the severity of this stuff, but is aware. I texted him about it, but I didn't hear back, so I don't know. Aren't the councils, bishops, and priests the ones who say what is and isn't sin? I didn't know we had a law book of sin to reference. What do you mean? Are you defending furryism or homoromanticism? What is it that you're defending here? You'll have to give me some more context. You got to give me some more context to your question here. What is the position that you're defending? Let me know. I think he's part of the William Lane Craig crowd, the meme guy. Oh, I don't know. Epic XC. Furry stuff is always a precursor to and indicator of far worse behavior and proclivities. I keep saying this. Yeah, I know. All right. yeah, I don't know. What do you mean? I don't know. You'll have to give me some more context. You're gonna have to give me just a little more context, maybe in the form of a super chat. I gotta figure out what you mean. So you're gonna have to send me another super chat so I can figure out exactly what you're discussing. All right. Anyway, I think I'm done. I'm done for the night. We've gone about 4 hours now. Go ahead and smash that subscribe button. I've got some interesting stuff coming up very soon here on the show. Let's see. I'm gonna check smash the subscribe button, guys. Yo, we've got 23,000 subscribers. Every single live stream is getting 1,000, like 600 plus live consecutive viewers. 1,000 plus live consecutive viewers. Smash that subscribe button. We've got a ton of interesting content coming up. It's gonna get way more interesting and kind of spicy. It'll be interesting. All right. So let's take a look at what I got coming up next. Next two big shows. Fearless Truth is going to come on the 23rd. We're going to be doing some anti-Islam polemics, reviewing some Muslim debates and breaking down their bad arguments. This will be very interesting here. I'm also going to be doing a show tomorrow with an ex-true Orthodox guy. He's going to give you a bunch of reasons not to fall for that false sect. What led him out of true Orthodoxy and into the canonical church? Later on this month, on the 28th, we're going to have this Reformed Baptist guy, Janie, come on and have a conversation with me and Father Ivanov. And we're going to be discussing Reformed Baptist theology versus Orthodox theology. That should be interesting. Stay tuned for that. And then on the 30th, Father Tom Soroka returns to the show. We'll be doing some epic debunks then. So stay tuned. It's going to be an awesome show. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time. Oh, we got another super chat. I need a cigar after watching this. Be a man. So true. And I'm going to leave you guys with something so profound. So don't you dare turn this stream off yet. You're about to hear the most profound part of the entire stream. Okay? Listen. Are you ready?